station of Fox Sports.
We are Fox Sports. We are Fox Sports.
Last night, the Rays road trip got off to a tough start with Joe Madden getting ejected on a controversial check swing in the 10th inning. Then Derek Norris walked it off for Oakland. Tonight, left-hander Drew Smyly makes his Rays debut. Welcome to T-Mobile Tuesday Night Baseball. Tonight from the other Bay Area on the West Coast, we bring you the Rays and the Oakland A's, the middle game of this three-game series from O.Co Coliseum. The A's last night winning a 10-inning contest, and tonight, as we welcome you into the broadcast, Todd Callis alongside Brian Anderson, we see a new face in the Rays rotation. There's no David Price this time around, but it's number 33, Drew Smyly.
Yeah, and Drew Smyly right now is saying, finally, the day has arrived. And in a lot of ways, this is going to feel like the first start of the season. There will be nerves, and for Drew, it will be all about controlling those nerves and getting into the flow of the game as quickly as possible.
Smyly makes his Rays debut tonight. David Price made a start for the Tigers in Yankee Stadium. And Smyly talks about how he just has to be himself and not replace number 14.
Yeah, he's very big shoes. I mean, it's David Price. He's outstanding. He's awesome to watch. But, I mean, the Rays, they made the move, and so they obviously see something in me. And so, like I said, I'm really excited, to be playing for him, for a team that wants you, and hopefully I can learn a lot more from Jim. And I'm excited to, play these next 2 months.
So Drew Smyly will make his Rays debut against a former Ray and former Devil Ray, for that matter, Jason Hamill, also adjusting to a new team. It's the Rays and the A's on a Tuesday night from Oakland, California. Next. Golden Gate Bridge. It's our final late night with the Rays from O.Co Coliseum in Oakland. Our final one, at least, in the 2014 campaign.
Todd, you look surprised.
I was very shocked to see that. As Rays fans have made their way to the West Coast, watching a little Rays baseball after a 10-inning, 3-2 loss last night. Derek Norris walking it off against the former A's closer, Grant Balfour. Joe Maddon hopes his team will turn it around tonight, going with Drew Smyly in his Rays debut. And we'll take a look at the Rays lineup brought to you by your Southern Ford dealers. The lineup they will throw out against Jason Hamill with Desmond Jennings leading things off. Ben Zobrist in left field, batting second. Matt Joyce as the DH hits third. Evan Longoria hit his 14th home run of the year last night. He's the cleanup hitter. James Loney, look at what he's done in his career against the former Ray Jason Hamill. Yuni Escobar hit 6. Cole Figueroa 7. Kurt Casale is in the 8th spot. And Kevin Kiermaier, the right fielder, bats 9.
Well, taking the mound tonight for the Oakland Athletics, it is right-hander Jason Hamill. These are his numbers spread out over the course of the season with the Cubs and the Oakland A's, but this transition to Oakland has not gone smoothly. 4 starts out here, 0-4 record, and ERA over 9.5 at 9.53. He will look to right the ship here tonight against the Rays. Let's take a look at defense as it lines up. Behind Jason in the outfield, left to right, Johnny Gomes, Sam Fuld, and Josh Reddick across the infield, third to first. Josh Donaldson, Eric Sogard, Alberto Callaspo, and Nate Fryman. Derek Norris will handle the catching duties.
Sam Fuld in center field. He's been in there every game since he's been acquired from the Minnesota Twins, and part of the reason is Coco Crisp has been dealing with a neck injury. Crisp back in the lineup tonight, but he is in the DH role. They expect Coco to be out tomorrow in the outfield. Bob Melvin, the manager of the Oakland Athletics, watching his team carry the best record in all of baseball into tonight's play, and they have had sole possession of first place in the AL West for the last 95 days. That was in jeopardy last night. Had they lost, they would have been tied with the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. There's the former Ray and Devil Ray Jason Hamill about to start tonight against Joe Maddon's squad. Hamill pitched for Joe in 08 as a member of the Rays. It's part of their AL championship season. Also pitched as a member of the Devil Rays in 06 and 07. Joe's first 2 years with the team. Desmond Jennings will lead things off for Tampa Bay. Comfortable night here on a Tuesday evening. Glad he could join us for a little late night with the Rays. The Rays will wrap up this 3-game series tomorrow afternoon and then head to Chicago for 3 with the Cubs at Wrigley over the weekend. We're underway with the first pitch, a called strike.
Well, for Jason Hamill, it is about driving the ball downhill. Fastball, slider, curveball, and changeup, but all too often here with Oakland, a lot of pitches staying thigh high up around the belt, too hittable.
First pitch was presented by Pinch a Penny. The next one misses. It's 1-1. .65 degrees in Oakland tonight. A little bit of a slight rain shower right before the game started. Hamill ahead 1-2. Jason had really good numbers when he was with the Cubs, a sub-3 ERA going for the season. But as B.A. mentioned, since coming over to Oakland, it has been less than desirable. He has lost his first 4 starts. Ball hit high in the air to left field. Johnny Gomes came in initially, and now he drifts back. It was a sky-high fly ball for the first out.
Well, when you look at Jason Hamill in his starts here with Oakland, 17 innings, now 17 in the third, 36 base runners, 10 walks to go along with 26 hits. The opponent's hitting over 350 against him, and as much as it is pitches up in the zone, that can be as much mental as physical. You know, when you get traded over to a new team, a team like the A's, best record in baseball, a lot of expectations, and you can see the numbers, how they break out. You know, there's a mental adjustment that goes into that. You're looked at a guy that's going to make a difference and get the team deep into October, and that can be tough to overcome, you know, early on.
Ben Zober is the hitter. You see what he's done on the year. Ben had a hitting streak snap last night. A 9-game hitting streak ended with that 0 for 4.
That's why this matchup is so intriguing. Jason Hammel trying to get back on the right path. How much longer will the Oakland A's stick with him as much as he's struggled and what their expectations are? And also Drew Smyly on the Rays side. His first start with the team looking to get back in the race.
And Hammel admitted yesterday when I talked to him before the game that it has not been an easy transition for him. He said he felt like he's been putting too much pressure on himself, even though he came over with another player, Jeff Samardzija. Hammel just hasn't found his comfort zone yet with his new team, and part of that is working with Derek Norris, and there's a called strike 2-2.
And you can come over with a guy like Jeff Samardzija, and you think to yourself, well, he's kind of an umbrella. He kind of covers you. As a starting pitcher, when you go out there, it's your day. And it doesn't matter who you came with. They're looking at you to make a difference on that day, and that can be tough mentally.
Two big hops to the right side. Alberto Callaspo with the play, and there's 2 outs.
I was able to go through this one time in 2003 when the Kansas City Royals got off to such a great start.
Right.
And I ended up being a waiver trade, where I went to Kansas City. I think we were at that point 1 game up in the standings. And I come over. I don't know anybody on this team. Tony Pena hands me the ball. He said, you're pitching every 5 days till the end of the year. I don't care if we get rained out 4 days in a row. You're going every 5 days till the end of the year. Now, this is a team that had been together, spring training, the season, and all of a sudden everybody's looking at you to carry it through till the end. And to this day, maybe second on the list as most nerve-wracking start I ever made was that first start with the Royals.
Unbelievable. And even a veteran, as Matt Joyce has a 1-0 count and fouls it off, even a veteran like John Lackey the other day said in his first start with St. Louis, he felt like it was opening day jitters. These guys have been around the block forever.
That's right.
And that's what Drew Smyly's dealing with tonight,
Yep.
and that's what Jason Hammel's dealt with his first 4 starts.
And when you don't have the results, you tend to put more pressure on yourself. So as tough as the transition has been for Jason Hammel, until he has a nice start, it's going to get worse and worse and worse, because then the mind starts to take over.
Dropped in a nice curveball on Matt Joyce to get ahead 1-2. His fastball is fouled away.
Well, here in the early going, the early returns on Jason Hammel's stuff looks crisp. Fastball, he's gotten it to his spots. He's thrown some good breaking balls with good depth.
Rays with a loss last night to open up this 10-game road trip, trying to bounce back this evening. They, despite the loss, have still won 15 out of 18 on the road. They have been a very good road team, much better than at Tropicana Field this season. Evan helped propel the Rays early on last night with that 14th home run. On the ground, this is with the shift, so it's the shortstop, Sogard, who normally plays second base anyhow. Makes the play on Joyce to retire the Rays 1-2-3 in the first. The debut of Drew Smyly. Sitting A's coming to bat. Let's take a look at their lineup presented by your Southern Ford dealers. Coco Crisp back in there for the first time in over a week. Big fan favorite here The former Ray Sam Fold bats second, Josh Donaldson 3, another former Ray Johnny Gomes in the cleanup spot, Derek Norris 5, Nate Fryman the big first baseman 6, Josh Reddick 7, Alberto Callaspo will play second base and bat 8th, Eric Sogard the shortstop batting 9th. You see 3 lefties and a switch hitter in that lineup tonight. Oakland has been stacked with left-handed hitters throughout the year. A couple switch hitters actually with Chris and Callaspo. Coco will lead things off. And he'll take the first pitch from Drew Smiley outside for ball 1. See what Smiley has done this year with the Tigers. 3 games out of the bullpen, 18 starts, a sub-4 ERA. And the second pitch that he throws as a Ray is sent high in the air to left field. Ben Zobrist will make the play for the first out.
Well, let's take a quick look at the Rays defense as it lines up tonight. That outfield left to right, Ben Zobrist, Desmond Jennings, and Kevin Kiermaier across the infield third to first. Evan Longoria, Yunel Escobar, Cole Figueroa, and James Loney. Kurt Casale will handle the catching duties.
There you see Casale, another guy who started his career in the Tigers organization, just like his battery mate Drew Smiley, and takes a called strike to Sam Fold, 0-1.
Drew Smiley and what he's going to feature. You're going to see the 4-seam fastball quite a bit, a cutter, a curveball, and you can see that curveball coming from his tall, lanky frame has a tremendous amount of depth to it, and that's a pitch that he likes to go to, especially when he's ahead in the count or with 2 strikes.
See Jim Hickey looking on at his newest pitcher, only the 22nd starter since the Rays run to the World Series in 2008. The lowest in baseball in that stretch.
By 3. I think the Giants are the next closest team at 25. The continuity and the ability for these guys to stay healthy, to be able to go out there, take the ball over those years, pretty outstanding. You know, this is an organization that has really prided itself on running out a very strong starting rotation, building a bullpen, playing defense, and getting timely hitting as the formula for success, and it's worked.
I think part of Drew Smiley's comfort zone is, even though he's on edge tonight first start, he has been around the team for a little while now. There's a called third strike high in the zone. Quinn Wolcott early on says that's going to be a strike. Sam Fold disagrees.
Well, you know what? You don't have to like the decision, but you do have to abide by it. And here it is, a 4-seam fastball right above the belt or right at the belt, inside corner. That is absolutely a good pitch there by Drew Smiley and picking up his first strikeout for the Rays.
The last time Wolcott was behind the plate in a Rays game, Drew Smiley was on the mound for the Tigers, 4th of July. Here's Josh Donaldson. Pitch misses outside for ball 1. It was Wolcott's first game and first day as a full-time big league umpire. That's a called strike, 1-1. There you see the 28-year-old who last night ejected Joe Madden and the rest of the crew, John Tumpane, Dale Scott, the crew chief, and C.B. Bucknor over at third tonight. Swing and a miss, and it's 1-2. That pitch had a nice bite to it.
Yeah, and really out of the hand. You know, the one thing we always talk about with off-speed pitches, and you'll see this right here by Smiley, that's that, boy, it's almost like you don't know if that's the cutter. He kind of throws a slider, will get some depth to it, or the changeup. But you know, we'll get used to that as we go on. But Drew Smiley, the way he drives that ball downhill, he's so tall with that high arm angle that it'll appear to be a strike longer than most other pitchers. And that's what the one thing I'll be interested in seeing is we've seen a couple of these Rays pitchers, Jake Odorizzi comes to mind, that can pitch with their 4-seam fastball up above the zone. Mm-hmm. Is this the kind of pitcher that Drew Smiley can be here for the Rays?
I think maybe you're looking at a similar style from the opposite side.
You think about the slow curveball that he has with a lot of depth, the 4-seam fastball that he can ride up in the zone, a changeup that he doesn't use a whole lot of, and we know the Rays as an organization very fond of the changeup. I'll bet that starts to take a more prominent role. And then, of course, that cutter that will at times appear to be a slider.
Counts 3-2 on Josh Donaldson. There you see his pitch selection.
You see right down there at the bottom, that
changeup, 5%.
Yep. And all against right-handed hitters.
Yes.
He does not throw it against the lefties at all.
Fastball is drilled into left center field. This is heading to the wall. Donaldson will get 2, and he's there with a 2-out double.
Well, the four-seam fastball, the margin for error is slim. If you're going to go up in the zone, it's got to be above the zone. This one is not just above the belt, and Donaldson able to get into it with authority.
Donaldson now 4 for 5 in his career against Drew Smyly, and already Smyly wants to make sure he's on the same page with his catcher Kirk Casale with a runner on second base.
Well, this is where you change your signs up, and usually you're going to go over this before you even go out there, but this can be such a blur for Drew that, listen, you don't need a mistake here, so make sure.
That's probably what happened.
Oh, yeah.
Probably they talked about it at the end of the bullpen session, just as a reminder, and here we are, the first guy gets the second, and what are we going with again?
That's right. You're thinking about trying to catch your breath and go out there and start the game. Now a runner on second, and everything starts speeding up on you.
Johnny Gomes, the batter, he's been playing against lefties not only with the Red Sox, but since he's come over and returned to his hometown here. The Petaluma native, very happy to be back in the Oakland Bay Area as he takes a breaking ball a little bit low for a ball, 1-0. Gomes, one of 4 players residing with the A's current roster who played with the 08 AL champion Rays. There's a called strike. On the corner, 1-2. Not only was Gomes traded in a package that involved Yoenis Cespedes, they also traded their houses. Gomes now living in Yoenis' house in Oakland, and Cespedes living in Gomes' place in Boston.
That is efficiency at its finest.
You gotta love that.
That is outstanding. Well, we'll see if they love it.
Well, it saves a lot of time. This pitch gets away because Sally's going to have to really track this down. So much foul territory here that you never take for granted that it's only one base on a ball that gets away from the catcher. Donaldson stays at third, though, on the wild pitch.
Well, a ton of foul ground here, and that goes for behind the catcher, too. And this one right off that right thigh as Casale goes down to block it. Off to an odd angle. And you're right, you have got to be quick to the baseball in foul territory because base runners can get going like a track meet.
So now, Drew Smyly with a runner on third and 2 outs. We'll go back to working out of the windup here with a 2-2 count. Smyly pitched here with the Tigers back in late May. Did not fare very well in that start. Allowed 4 home runs in 5 innings.
Well, this is back when this Oakland offense was just humming right along. A lot of power. They do hit some home runs. But things have really, and starting in the month of July, have cooled down just a little bit. This was an Oakland team. They still lead Major League Baseball in runs scored, runs per game. But every single month, April, May, June, averaged over 5 runs a ball game during those months. Now in July it dropped down around 4.5. Here in August, down even further. They have not been swinging the bats as well as they have first 3 months of the year.
Smyly looked like he thought that was a third strike just based on the body language. Instead it's 3-2.
Drew Smyly thinking right now, Quinn Walcott, that ball call was completely inappropriate.
Pitch number 22 of the inning, and a swing and a miss for strike 3. Second strikeout of the inning, and Drew Smyly goes through his first inning as a Ray unscathed. We're scoreless heading to the second.
The swinging A's. Here's to the
happen all season long. Tires Plus donates $100 to the Pediatric Cancer Foundation for every Tampa Bay Rays during a televised Sun Sports contest. For every Rays home run last night, it was Evan Longoria with his 14th of the season and his team leading 57th RBI as he took Jeff Samardzija out right on top of the scoreboard in left field. That 15-foot wall just barely clearing it as Longo takes a called strike to start the second inning.
You know what I liked about that home run? That was a 2-0 fastball from Samardzija, and Evan Longoria got the head out, turned and burned and smoked that pitch. And we've seen him hit some home runs, left field, left center, most of the time on off-speed deliveries. Has not turned on a good hard fastball like that consistently enough. But that one, hopefully that's a sign of things to come.
Evan has been driving in runs at a better clip lately, 17 in his last 20. And has that team lead. He had been trading with James Loney for a while back and forth for the team lead. Now he leads Loney by 6. 2-2 the count as Jason Hamill works his second inning. There we see Loney on deck.
Here in the early going, it looks like balls up in the zone, getting a little bit more love from Wolcott than balls down around the knees or just below.
Swing and a foul tip, says Wolcott on the 2-2 pitch. Longoria barely stays alive.
Great spoil by Longoria because that was a nasty breaking ball there by Jason Hamill, and he's able to go down, just get a piece of it.
There's that slow curve for a called third strike. Doesn't break that one out very often, but he gets his former teammate Longoria looking on the first out of the second.
Well, it's all about knowing yourself and knowing the opposition. And right here, a good curveball. We've seen a number of those from Hamill here in the early going, and it just locks up Evan.
So Hamill has retired the first 4 he has faced in this game, making his 5th start with the Oakland A's. James Loney takes a called strike.
Well, that's a big deal, too. A big shift in what Hamill had normally been trying to do. He's usually a fastball slider guy, curveball occasionally, going with more of those here tonight.
On the line to left, but Gomes is right there, 2 away. Well, part of the learning curve for Hamill is getting on the same page with Derek Norris.
Yep.
And here's a guy in this season with all that success with the Cubs, and he comes over here. Maybe he's putting a little too much pressure on himself and hasn't been the same guy, and maybe hasn't used the pitches in the same proportion that he used with the Cubs.
And that's why communication is so important. You sit down with your catcher and say, this is what I like to do. This is the kind of pitcher that I am. I'm a sinker slider guy. I like to work the curveball in here or there, depending on how it is that night. Another good one right there. But see, that's the one thing that doesn't get talked about. If pitcher goes to another team and you expect his stuff to just shine, he's working with a new catcher. The chemistry, the familiarity has not been built yet.
Too many curveballs. This one gets hit in the center field.
And this is what caused him problems against the Houston Astros. That's an aggressive hitting team, looking for a lot of fastballs. That's when he really started to break that curveball out, and it was get ahead of you with it, but then hang one with 2 strikes. And it was a similar curveball right there that Escobar popped right back up the middle.
So Uni, who's hitting over 300 now since coming off the DL 19 games ago.
Look what that pitch is. That's a breaking ball up above the belt. You just feel lucky you gave up a single when you hang one like that.
Cole Figueroa, the batter, with 2 outs and a runner on first. One and one the count. Jason Hamill, very happy to be a part of a pennant race again. He has appeared in the postseason with the Colorado Rockies in 2009 and also with the Orioles a couple of years ago, 2012. Getting a chance for a 3rd postseason with a 3rd different team. On the ground, base hit right field. Escobar will take the turn, and he'll challenge Reddick. This could be dangerous. The throw is not in time. Escobar safe as it got away from Donaldson. Reddick has a gun out there, but Escobar able to go first to third.
Well, what helped Escobar there, obviously 2 strikes, you get a good secondary lead, and then with right here a ball on the ground contact, see Escobar gets way off secondary, and that gives him a good start, and then he makes his mind up early that he's going to go for it. Not a bad throw, but you can see it starts to tail at the end as it skips away from Donaldson. And the Rays here first and third, little 2-out rally.
Oh, Cole Figueroa with the base hit. He's been swinging the bat better lately. And now Kurt Casale, chance for his first big league RBI in at bat number 19 of his career. Breaking ball blocked nicely by Norris.
Boy, it sure was, because that was a slider and that was yanked right into the dirt. A lot of curveballs early. Now Hamill decides to go with the slider. And a great block there by Norris with the runner on third.
Figueroa bluffed to go, and the pitch is a fastball away, and now it's 2-0.
Now you start to get into a little bit of trouble. Cruising right along, a base hit on a hanging breaking ball. Figueroa finds a hole, and now you're 2-0 on Casale. And Kurt thinking, I am sitting right here, 2-0, looking for that fastball. That's what I'm going to get, and if he puts it out over the plate, I'm going to hammer it.
Figueroa, in limited playing time since joining the Rays, has not yet attempted a stolen base.
And I think with a 2-0 count, you just stay put. Jason Hamill has done a nice job since 2012 at really limiting the running game for a right-handed pitcher. 8 out of 10 this year opposing base stealers.
Fouled away by Casale. It's 2-1.
And there it was. There's your 2-0, 92-mile-an-hour fastball that catches a lot of plate.
Rays and the A's have generally played low-scoring games. Offense has been difficult for both sides during this series. The A's leading 3-1 this season. Only 20 runs combined in those 4 games. Now it's outside, and the count is 3-1. Fans growing a little restless after 2 outs and nobody on.
The leash is short now. You know, that's the thing. You're traded over from the Cubs. This is a team that has deep into October World Series expectations, and 0-4 with a 9.53 coming into this ball game, and the fans not going to be too long.
Fouled at the plate. Now the count's full.
And you wonder about the organization. How long are they going to stick with Jason Hamill if he continues to struggle like this, especially with the Angels nipping at their heels? There you go.
1 game back, the Angels playing the Dodgers last night and winning, forcing the A's to win their game against the Rays to stay in first by themselves. Figueroa will get a head start with 2 outs. Full count pitch. Outside and low, ball 4. The Rays have the bases loaded.
Well, where the breaking ball was good early on, now Jason Hamill has started to struggle with it. Went to the slider. He's missed with a handful of those, and the last couple of curveballs have not been very good. This is a dangerous guy right here for Jason Hamill. He has not been getting it done in a big way with runners in scoring position, but presented here with another opportunity against a guy he matches up pretty well against.
Kiermaier likes this situation, at least in the early part of his career. 3 for 5 with the bases loaded. 2 outs of a scoreless game. Breaking ball misses again. This one inside on Kiermaier, 1-0. So Hamill very good through the first inning and 2/3, retires the first 5 batters, but then a single by Escobar, a single by Figueroa, and a walk by Casale. Swing and a miss to the fastball.
And Kevin's telling himself right now, you get 3 of them. Don't worry about it. You get 3 of them. That was a good fastball. Just got above his bat. But a 1-1 count. still in a pretty good spot here.
Chopper on the ground to second. Cayaspo will make the play, and the Rays leave the bases loaded in the second inning. A couple of hits and a walk. 3 men left on base. We're scoreless. You by Toyota. Let's go places. By Checkers, big Philly flavor, small price. Checkers Philly cheesesteak and the new chicken Philly, each just $1.99. And by T-Mobile, Tuesday Night Baseball. Late night with the Rays from O.Co Coliseum in Oakland, California, across the bridge from San Francisco. I don't get to see these generally. So
yeah,
this is what I'm missing. Huh?
You just sit back and enjoy, because they're going to roll in and they're going to get good. Just put it that way. That's just like a slight warm up.
That was 2013 Preakness attire.
Oh yeah,
Bloody Mary in hand.
that was a big day.
Great day. Here we go into the bottom of the second inning with Derek Norris leading off. He was the guy that walked it off in last night's game. Takes a called strike, 0-1. See Norris's numbers on the year. Last night was his second career walk-off. Did so against the former A's closer Grant Balfour. And here's a look.
And you get to peer into the mindset of a hitter. Derek Norris, familiar with Grant Balfour, down 0-2, said, you know what, I'm just going to try to stay with something up the middle. I know they have me played way around over in the hole. Obviously, you're taking a look at the defense. And so he tried to stay with something and just pop it up the middle. And he even said, I knew I wouldn't have to hit it that hard because there was nobody there. And that's exactly what he did.
Frustrating way to end the game for the Rays. There was a check swing that resulted in an ejection for Joe Madden. There was a ball that stayed in the air for a while that fell as a foul ball. And the Rays ended up losing in 10. Drew Smiley in his second inning of work as a Ray. Misses with a fastball, 2-2. And that's where the fastball sits, usually, right around 90.
Not a ton of movement, not a lot of run, not a lot of sink. A true four-seam fastball. Again, think Jake Odorizzi from the left side. That's why that curveball will play well off of that. I think that you're going to see, the longer he's in the organization, you're going to see that changeup improve and become a more prominent pitch. And then, of course, that cutter, because of his height, will sometimes he'll get depth enough on it to look like a hard slider, because he'll throw that right around that 85, 86 range.
Casale and Smiley having some difficulty here getting on the same page with what they want at 2-2. Forced Norris to step out twice. Drews keeps shaking to maybe a pitch that Casale's not calling.
Yeah, and this right here is where it can get frustrating because it's, it's hard enough to go out there and try to get these hitters out. When you start fighting your catcher on trying to get to the right pitch or get to a pitch that you throw or whatever he's staying away from, it just adds to the difficulty level. Look at Casale going with just the touches and Smiley not even moving.
Well, part of the communication issue is getting to know your new catcher, and now the 2-2 pitch is a breaking ball.
And that's where you almost start to worry more about what's going to be called or not called rather than executing the pitch. That's why you want to work smoothly and just, absolutely seamless with your catchers so that you're just worried about, okay, there's the pitch, here's the location, let's make it happen.
Line drive, but the Rays have it played perfectly. On a short hop, Figueroa makes the play to first. That was perfect defense from the Rays.
Well, Nora's here going right back up the middle. This is Cole Figueroa right here. This ball is smoked, but guess what? That's where the shift absolutely takes hits away, and that's why it's utilized.
You can see where the Rays were playing tonight. It was a little different with a lefty on the mound than with Grant Balfour on the mound last night.
That's right, and that's the thing. These shifts will get so specific to the type of pitcher, what pitches he throws. I saw a shift last night from the Rays where literally, as the pitcher's going into his windup, a guy is shifting. Escobar is all of a sudden heading from up the middle to the other side of second base, mid-delivery.
Big swing and a miss from the big first baseman, Nate Fryman.
Now, that could either be we're really getting tricky with the shift, or Escobar figuring out late, not in the right spot.
See the shift here for Fryman, big 6'8" first baseman, obviously a pull hitter on the infield, and he swings at a fastball and misses 91.
And I'll tell you what, that was up on purpose, and that was effective. You see that going up in the zone against a guy that tall is not easy, but you're going to see Casale where he goes up. He was up out of his crouch. He wanted it up there, flashing that glove. Give me something up, and he beats him with it. Those are not easy pitches to execute.
You see Fryman, and the bat's not even close to through the zone when that pitch hits the glove. So 2 outs, nobody on, and a swing and a miss from Reddick, 0-1. Noticing how Casale is calling his pitches with touches on the leg, on the chest protector. I don't know if I've seen that prior. That might be a Drew Smiley thing where Drew is comfortable with those kind of signals.
I think that's exactly what it is. Most of the time you're talking about 1, 2, 3 wiggle, and then obviously you've got different signs with the runner on second base. Those are your standard signs, but you can see right here, Casale, going with touches.
Line drive up the middle on the 0-2 pitch. Reddick with the second base hit of the night for the A's.
And that right there was the cutter. That was the cutter, 85 miles an hour. He will use that against these lefties, as a pitch breaking away from them with a little bit of depth to him. But that was just a better job of hitting there by Reddick to stay on it, not overswing, and find a hole up the middle.
Well, we're going to have another mound visit. This is going to be a little bit extensive tonight, you would think. A catcher and a pitcher, first time through, getting used to each other. A catcher who's never given the touch signs, is used to putting fingers down. And these guys have already met 3 or 4 times in the first 2 innings.
That is tough for Casale on top of everything else. I mean, that's a system that is rarely used. You'll give touches for location, but not typically for pitches and location. And so he needs to get used to that too. You can practice that in your hotel room. Sit in front of a mirror and go through, that. Hopefully that was something that was talked about before today.
Yes.
Oh, by the way, my system of signs are completely different than anything you're probably used to. Or at least you haven't done in a while.
There's a breaking ball and a called strike, 1-1. Drew Smiley making his Rays debut tonight. 19th start of the season. 6'3", 190-pound lefty out of Arkansas, born in Little Rock. 1-1 pitch is fouled back 1-2. Smiley familiar with one of the Rays on the current roster from all the way back in his college days. Logan Forsythe on the same team with him as an Arkansas Razorback back in 2008. There you see Logan watching his good buddy on the mound. Logan not in the line, and we have a pickoff here. Reddick is on the move, and he is out at second base. Smiley to James Loney to Figueroa, and that'll end the second inning. So Smiley with a pickoff to end the second, and we head to the third inning. Still no score. Inning, Rays and the A's scoreless. You can keep your drinks cool while supporting your favorite team. Get the exclusive Rays cooler only by purchasing a Tampa Bay Times ticket tandem when the Rays take on the Yankees on Friday, August 15th. Visit RaysBaseball.com/tandems for more information. Cool thing about those ticket tandem giveaways, they are only available through the ticket tandem process. And they've had some cool items this year. Joe Madden Wineglass is the most recent. Here's Desmond Jennings leading things off for the Rays. Back to the top of the order as the Rays start the third. Des with a couple of hits in last night's game. Flied out to left his first time up tonight. And Jason Hamill worked out of a bases loaded situation in the last inning. But falling behind Jennings here to start the third, 2-0. Now it's 3-0, and that command, which was sharp early, has been elusive more recently.
Yeah, the Rays have gotten to the top of the order here in the top of the third inning, so they're getting another quick look at Hamill.
Fastball up and in, ball four. 4-pitch walk to start the inning.
This is where you can really get into a pitcher's head. Now, he got Kiermaier to ground out to get out of that bases-loaded jam in the second, but a 4-pitch walk to start off the third. Now, as an offense, you get greedy and you go to work. You can put something together here.
Zober's the right guy at the plate for that. Ben has been red hot as of late, even with the 0 for 4 last night. DA mentioned earlier, Hamill not easy to run on. Dez leads the team with 14 steals. And 5 straight out of the zone to start the third.
And that one over the plate, but again down. Wolcott not calling that pitch boring down. And Jason Hamill's not the type of pitcher that wants to pitch up. Drew Smiley, we've seen he can do that because of the way his four-seam plays. Jason Hamill wants to get sink and run. When you're up in the zone with those pitches, they tend to flatten out and become very hittable.
42 pitches the Rays have put on Hamill as we start the third. Bends over his last 10 games, hitting well over 400. 436 and a couple of bombs in the mix. 5 runs batted in. Zoe since June 28th, a 345 hitter, and really the left-handed swing has looked a lot better lately.
That's what you're most excited about. You know, right-handed, he's been pretty consistent all year and red hot hitting right-handed, but left-handed recently, that homestand, he really got it going from the left side. You saw the couple of home runs from the left side. Ben Zobrist's a guy that always has a pretty good idea of his strike zone, will take the walk, and when he's swinging well from both sides, he is a tough out, and he's tough to match up against late in the ball game because of that.
On the ground, diving stop, Donaldson to second. One quick relay, not in time. Tremendous play by the A's third baseman.
That was absolutely gorgeous effort all around, even by Callaspo at second, with Jennings bearing down on him. But this ball looking like it's going to get by Donaldson. He's playing pretty much even with the bag. And watch this.
Number 20, Matt Joyce.
Boy, quick flip here by Callaspo, too, in and out of that glove.
Pretty good third base play in this series with Longoria for the Rays, Donaldson for the A's, and here's Matt Joyce. Joyce grounded out his first time up. Although both of those guys committed an error in last night's game, the two third basemen ripped in the center base hit. That was a bullet off the bat of the Rays DH. First and second now with one out.
See, that's the problem with Jason Hamill. If he pitches up in the zone, his ball kind of runs right into your swing. That's what you'll see here. Well, that ball thigh high.
Number 3, Evan Longoria.
Rays have been getting some base runners recently, just not cashing in all the time with runners in scoring position, and now the guy that leads them in RBIs, Evan Longoria at the plate. Longoria is 2 for 13 in his career against Hamill with 4 strikeouts, including the first time up. Here's a double play ground ball, short to second for one. Callaspo with the turn, and that'll do it. So the Rays have a runner erased on the double play. They leave one more. We're through 2.5 scoreless. Here's pitching coach Jim Hickey and how he handles the situation with a new pitcher.
Well, first of all, he is a little bit different because of that, because he's coming over in the middle of a season, and also in the middle of a season where every game is very, very important. You know, we're right in the middle of, you know, trying to get back into this pennant race. The general rule would be about 6 starts where I would leave a guy alone and just kind of observe before I started to lend any kind of insight or criticism or constructive criticism or whatever. I think we would accelerate that a little bit right now and maybe take it to about 3 starts.
So 3 starts, and we'll see what the Rays have some ideas. They really like this guy. They have some ideas of where they can make some tweaks here and there. We'll see what happens as this season progresses. But early on, they just said, you go out there and pitch. We may talk to Kirk Casale about sequencing, but we don't want you to worry about that. Just to go do your thing.
And that's absolutely the most prudent course of action to take. And there's enough going on in Drew Smyly's mind. You do not need to cloud it up with anything else right now.
There you see the Brain Trust, Joe Madden, Davey Martinez, Tom Foley, Jim Hickey, all on the rail here at O.Co Coliseum. This ball in the air on the line to left, and Ben Zobrist shifts over for the first out. So we talked last inning when Smyly was on the mound about the signs that Casale was giving.
Yes.
And you think you may know why?
Well, I don't know.
Possibly. You have a theory.
Well, we know that when he faced the Rays as a member of the Tigers, you know, and that was over the 4th of July or...
Oh, wait, he faced them here on May 26th.
No, when Smyly faced the Rays. So
when Smyly faced the Rays.
Yeah, well, whenever that was earlier this season, he had traditional signs.
Right.
Traditional signs.
Yeah.
So this is either something new for Drew Smyly, or he faced this Oakland team out here in Oakland at the end of May.
Right.
He went 5 innings, gave up 8 hits. 4 of those 8 hits were home runs. And so you start to wonder if maybe there was a feeling that the A's potentially had his signs here. You know, you hear that from time and again, you know, ballpark to ballpark. Hey, be careful here because they may be doing something funny. And so if that was the case, or Drew Smyly felt that may be the case, then maybe you change your signs up next time you come into this building.
Here's a pop-up on the infield. Loney will take charge for the second out. What's interesting to me about that is the Rays have never done this before.
No,
this is obviously something that maybe Drew brought to their attention.
That's right. And so when you combine, this is all conspiracy theory,
sure.
by the way, and conjecture.
Well, it's late night with the Rays.
That's right. But when you go back to Drew Smyly's start that we saw him against the Rays this year, he was regular signs. So that's not like something he was going with all year. Now to break it out all of a sudden, it's either something very new that he started in the last couple of starts, or there's another reason for it, because this is not something that the Rays do, ever.
2 outs, nobody on. Back to the top of the lineup for Coco Crisp, and he takes a called strike, 0-1. It is interesting. It is something more for Casale to think about. Young catcher, still cutting his teeth at the major league level.
Well, especially if you get, you know, if he shakes you off.
Right.
Wait, now where do I do? Is it my left thigh? Is my mask? You tried to remember it all. That's what we've seen on so many meetings early on.
There was that one stretch there with Norris at the plate where they went through the signs twice. Norris stepped out twice, and they still didn't have the right pitch at 2-2. 1-1 counts a called strike, and it's 1-2. 2 hits allowed so far by Drew Smyly in his Tampa Bay Rays debut. He has struck out 3. He has not walked a batter. And he is wearing the number of a former Rays ace, James Shields, for the first time, 33 back in play. And there's a called third strike to end the inning. 4 strikeout for Drew Smyly, and we're through 3, scoreless in Oakland. From Oakland, the Rays looking on from the dugout. Skipper Joe Madden looking very dapper on his way out to the West Coast with his 007 James Bond theme trip. And the camo group, the trio of Chris Westmoreland, Davey Martinez, Tom Foley, they were looking pretty stylish as well.
They made me nervous.
Did they?
Yeah. Well, you get these guys, climbing around on the plane, 5.5 hour flight.
Thankfully, we did get checked before we got on the flight. 0-1 to count to James Loney to start the fourth. There is Davey, bench coach. A lot of guys are going to enjoy the day off in Chicago on Thursday. There's a called strike.
Hey, listen, don't gloss over it. Let's go back to it. Yeah, we got checked before we got on that flight, but that's the whole point of camo. Did they see everything?
Oh, yeah.
And that's what makes you nervous. And it wasn't a little jumper. We were on there for a long time, and they sit right in front of me.
You know what's going to be great later when we show the Jake in the Box outfits? Here's a bullet up the middle. That's another 0-2 hit for James Loney. He had one last night against the lefty Sean Doolittle and has one here against Jason Hamill to lead off the fourth. When we show the Dumb and Dumber look later for Jake McGee and Brad Boxberger, that's what Late Night with the Rays is all about. Here's Hamill's pitch on 0-2.
Another pitch up in the zone. An 0-2 hit given up on a ball that had elevation to it. James Loney, 0 on the stride right there. He's just looking to go back up the middle or the other way, and he hammered that ball.
Oh, it was interesting to watch where the catcher sets up and where the pitch is. You can tell if the pitcher's hitting his spots. Obviously an 0-2 pitch right there. Much better than they wanted. Here's Yunel Escobar. Chopper to third. Donaldson to second. Callaspo once again turns a double play. Second double play in as many innings the Rays hit into. That's nothing new for them this year.
Well, yeah, that's what's absolutely amazing is how many double plays the Rays have hit into versus the number that they've actually turned themselves. The deficit is, alarming. And another one right here. Sets up beautifully. Donaldson, nice short, easy throw to Callaspo in the turn.
Donaldson starts more double plays than anybody at third base in the American League, and he starts one there, 2 outs, and now Cole Figueroa, who is 3 for his last 4, had a base hit his first time up. The Rays have now hit into 115 double plays. 115 in 113 games. That's not very good. And they've only turned 60.
Yeah. The math is bad there.
There's a pitch up high. It's 2-1. Thanks.
Well, this has been a year where we've really tried to introduce math and completely inappropriate use of the numbers.
Egregiously inappropriate?
I would say.
Yeah. Here's a ball in the air foul, and it's 2-2. I think math is solid when you have Sam Fold in center field and he can do sabermetrics with you guys. That's what it's all about.
He teaches. We're like sponges.
He's an intern at Stats Inc., so he's got it. I
Yeah.
mean, he knows it all. He can tell you some things we're still learning about. Here's a ball the other way in front of Johnny Gomes for a base hit. So Cole Figueroa, he'll make a wide turn and hold on. It's now 4 hits in his last 5 at-bats. Figueroa not getting a lot of playing time with the Rays, but probably his best sequence of at-bats since he's been a Ray.
And it's not easy, too, when you're getting infrequent playing time to try to put together consistent at-bats. But that's exactly what Cole Figueroa has done. Look how long he waits on that pitch to get into the strike zone before he pulls the trigger and just slices that the other way. Well done by the Rays' second baseman.
The Rays have grounded into 102. I added a few double plays there. They've grounded into 102 double plays, which is still one shy of Boston for the most in the American League, but still only turned 60. Figueroa, big lead at first. Hamill's pickoff attempt, a close play, but Figueroa back.
Cole Figueroa going to push the envelope as far as his lead and how far he can get out there. And that was not the smoothest transition to get back into the bag, and that's why that play was close. You see, he was leaning and really couldn't get a whole lot of good traction as he pushes back towards first. And that's about what you would expect here. And maybe a stolen base attempt by Figueroa. figure in this situation, nothing to lose, 2 outs, runner on first, try to make something happen here.
Well, while Hamill has been tough to run on, his battery mate this season, Derek Norris, people have been able to steal on him, 36 out of 41.
Right, and as a team, the Oakland A's tied with the Minnesota Twins for the fewest caught stealings in the American League, just 13 on the season. They've been very efficient when they run,
right,
and they have been very efficient for the opposition when they've decided to run.
Hamill up to 56 pitches here, 2 outs in the 4th inning. Scoreless game. Jason Hamill, his 5th start with the Oakland A's. Drew Smyly making his Tampa Bay Rays debut tonight. So far, so good for Smyly. Just a couple of hits, no walks. They pitch out. The ball was almost on the outside part of the plate.
They should just go into a series with an opposing team and have a summit meeting where they sit down and just decide, you don't run, we don't run. Because the numbers on each side are pretty eerie. You know, when you look at what the Oakland A's have done running, they're 62 out of 74
right,
as a team, very good.
Awesome.
Opposing base runners against the A's, 62 out of 75. It's almost a wash. So you know, just sit down and say, you don't go, we don't go. Let's play it out.
2-1 to count to Casale. He walked his first time up. Rays trying to win here in Oakland. That's never been easy in their history. In fact, they've never had a worse record anywhere else besides Oakland, 21-51 all time.
I don't know anybody that plays well out here besides Oakland. I mean, I'm not kidding you. I think that my career ERA in this building has got to be pushing 30.
Why? What is it about this place?
I don't know.
Just a comfort. You would think with all the foul territory, you would like
it. Would be great.
Yeah, you would like it.
Well, yeah, but then if you pitched for Oakland, you probably would. You'd be all world, but yeah, not good.
Line drive by Casale, base hit into left field. 3rd hit of the season for Kurt. Johnny Gomes kind of played it on a couple of hops and almost cost himself a bag as Figueroa rounded aggressively but stayed at second.
Go back, look at location. When Hamill's fastball is up, it flattens.
It's a solid little swing there, right, by Kurt Casale.
Sure was. Hit that ball hard.
And Kurt obviously up here with Ryan Hannigan being on the DL. And Hannigan had a little bit of a setback with that oblique recently and taking some days to recover from that. So Casale maybe getting a little longer stay here than he initially thought. Here's Kevin Kiermaier. Kiermaier needs a base hit with runners in scoring position. He had a bases loaded situation his last time up. Takes a pitch just outside for a ball. The Oakland fans thought that was a strike. 1-0. In the air to center field. Sam Fold doesn't have to move very far. And the Rays leave 2 more. They've now left 6 in the last 3 innings. First score was heading to the bottom of the 4th. 2. We're still scoreless. It's now time for you to tweet your photos using hashtag SunSportsFanPhoto for a chance to have it shown in an upcoming game broadcast brought to you by AT&T. Rays offense through the last 3 innings has left 6 men aboard. They've also hit into 2 double plays. Drew Smyly has faced just 1 over the minimum as he has allowed 2 hits, no walks. He picked off a runner, Josh Reddick, to end the 2nd inning. Kind of like that analogy you've given earlier with a left-handed version of Jake Odorizzi. And when you consider how far Odorizzi has come this year with the Cobb split change, you mentioned that Tampa Bay loves to teach their pitchers changeups. That could be a huge weapon if he can ever perfect a pitch that right now is really not in his repertoire.
Listen, his fastball is not overpowering, but he's got a delivery that he's going to be able to repeat. And you can just see how a changeup would play so well with what he's going to try and do. You know, the curveball, the four-seam fastball, already a nice combo. You throw in a good changeup, especially against right-handed hitters. I mean, I think that's one of the areas that the Rays are looking at. Hey, listen, we can really get Drew Smyly to make a leap once we're able to incorporate that changeup into what he does. His stuff and the way he pitches, it sets up perfectly for him.
Smyly getting the sign and going this inning. Here's a little cue shot. This is going to be a base hit on a ball hit about 65 feet off the bat of Sam Fold.
Wow, that's unfortunate. Those are the hits you hate to give up, and you can see Sam Fold right there and making a face. A swinging bunt, just no defense for it.
Now batting third baseman, number 20, Josh Donaldson.
Oh, I mean, he hits that ball, it actually heads behind him.
It looked like it missed the front of the bat and then the cup underneath, and it hit the back end of the bat.
Wouldn't surprise me at all for that baseball to have a huge gash in it.
Unbelievable. That close to a strikeout. Instead, you live with a base hit to lead off the 4th. They'll have to be watched over there. 15 of 18 on the season in steals, and Donaldson checks his swing for the ball in the dirt. Donaldson was one last night who checked a swing on a 2-2 pitch that had Joe Madden and the rest of the Rays dugout fired up, cost Madden the rest of the night with an ejection. Here's a ball ripped foul down the left field line. That ball was hammered. Let's take a look at what happened last night. It was runners on first and second, 1 out. Grant Balfour trying to work out of trouble. And the 2-2 pitch was that swing that Joe Madden felt like he went around. And Quinn Walcott said no, and Joe Madden said that's not very good, inappropriate, and a lot of other words. Quinn Walcott did not say anything during it. It was a monologue. It was not a dialogue.
What are you going to say? Just hear him out.
Swing and a miss, and it's 1-2.
Yeah, that was the old Muhammad Ali way of doing things. Just rope it down. Just get in the corner and let the guy beat you senseless, let him get all tired, and then just go to whack him. And that's what he did.
It's hard to argue it. At a certain point, you run out of things to say if the guy's not fighting back.
Yeah, that's absolutely. There's nothing for you to feed off of. You just suffocate the fire. You just take away the oxygen.
Most umps don't use that strategy. Here's the 1-2 pitch way upstairs. It's 2-2. Last time Walcott was behind the plate, Joe Madden was ejected in that game too. Last time he was behind the plate in a Rays game. That was that July 4th game where the Rays hit Victor Martinez. And then Drew Smyly was on the mound for the Tigers, and Joe Madden accused Smyly after the game of hitting Evan Longoria intentionally. And then Alex Cobb hits Ian Kinsler with a curveball. Craig Gibson, the second base umpire, looked at Walcott, and they decided to issue warnings. Ball gets away, and Sam Fold takes advantage.
Sam Fold is a very good base runner. Rays fans know that. The Rays know that. And he's a guy that's always looking to move up 90 feet when he can. Great anticipation. And right there, quick decision.
Wild pitch that didn't get very far away from Casale, but as you said, Fold, a good base runner, takes advantage. Now dangerous spot with Donaldson, 3-2. Nobody out, 4th inning of a scoreless game. Donaldson 4 for 5 in his career against Drew Smyly. That includes a home run the last time Smyly started here. Tried a curveball on the outside corner, doesn't get the call. Now the A's have the first 2 runners aboard here in the 4th.
And that was awfully close. I think Josh Donaldson is taking that pitch thinking, please call the ball, please call the ball. See right here, just tries to drop it over that outside corner. Those balls that are up in the zone have been getting called by Wolcott, just missed by a couple inches.
Now Johnny Gomes, the batter. Gomes struck out swinging his first time up, 1 of 4 strikeouts recorded by Drew Smyly tonight. First pitch to Gomes is fouled back. Smyly getting a visit from James Loney, talking about where he's playing. The Rays are shifting with 3 on the left side of the infield against Gomes. And James Loney the only one on the right side, and he's holding the runner, so the entire right side of the infield wide open.
And James Loney just got cut.
There you go.
Look at that. I mean, look at all that room to go. That's how confident the Rays are that Johnny Gomes will pull. And you really have to be. I mean, a guy really has to have almost zero ability to go the other way on his own for you to hand him an RBI single, or what would set up to be an RBI single.
What's unusual to me, though, is because Figueroa is playing where he is, Fold can't get a big lead. So if he's not going to go, why are you holding the runner on first? Just a thought. It's 0-2 the count to Gomes. And now Loney plays off the bag. Gomes rips one foul. That missed the line by about 5 feet. Johnny out in front of that breaking ball.
And that is a really good point, too. Because Figueroa right behind Sam Fold. You're absolutely right. There's no reason. And you know what? You don't necessarily have to play way behind him and give him a gigantic lead at first. But you could just play somewhat close and take away a little bit of that hole. Sam Fold is going to be keeping a close eye on Figueroa, and obviously with good reason, because Cole can slip in there at any moment.
Now, after we say all that, they throw to first.
But you know what? You can do that when the guy's not holding them on. I mean, there's a sign for that where you could be playing in front of him or behind him. And as Drew Smyly will go into his leg hook, then the first baseman will try to sneak in, usually obviously from behind, try to sneak in behind the runner. So there is a play for that. That's not necessarily a bad thing.
In the air to left, should be easy for Ben Zobrist. Fold's going to tag, but it's just a bluff, and Ben makes the throw back in.
Well, how many times have we seen raised base runners? You start thinking about Brandon Geyer, you think about Kevin Kiermaier, of going back and bluffing that start off the bag to force an aggressive throw from an outfielder. You never know. Maybe they airmail it, and you're able to move up because of it. Love that style of baseball where you just do not concede anything.
Derek Norris, you see what he's done with runners in scoring position this year. When the A's traded Yoenis Cespedes, it had been Donaldson, Brandon Moss, who's not in the lineup today, and Cespedes, who are always in that 3, 4, 5 slots one way or the other. Sometimes Cespedes 3, Donaldson 5, or Donaldson 3, Cespedes 5. A lot of times Moss was a cleanup hitter. Now all of a sudden Cespedes is gone. You're seeing different guys getting a chance in that 3, 4, 5 slot. Tonight Gomes 4, Norris 5. In the dirt, counts 2-0.
And I think the Rays are thinking right here, Derek Norris, you know, with a runner in scoring position in this situation, more apt to pull even more than he was his last time up, where he hit a ball up the middle, actually to the right side of second base, very, very hard, that Cole Figueroa was able to make a nice play on. And now Cole is going to jockey here right behind Sam Fuld and then clear back towards the shortstop position as the ball's delivered to the plate.
And again, fans may be wondering, why isn't the same shift in place last night when Grant Balfour's on the mound? They have different shifts, lefties, righties, even different styles of pitchers too. And some pitchers, such as David Price in the past, could wipe it out if they didn't want the shift. Usually it's a veteran who has the ability to take the shift off. Most guys stay with it. But last night, that would have been a ground out where Norris's 4 or 5 hopper ended up being the game-winning hit.
You know what else they'll do is they'll change the shift, not only for all those reasons that you gave, but also base runners.
Sure.
Where are they? How many of them are there? How many outs are there? I mean, there's a lot that goes into these defenses.
What a catch by a fan who never left his seat. Everybody jumped for that baseball, and that fan did not leave his seat and made the play.
Concentration. I mean, that right there, you know what? Think about being a hockey goalie. You run interference in front of them, it doesn't matter. Oh, that is outstanding.
He was screened out.
He was.
And
that was.
Still caught it. 2-2. Ooh, that's close. 3-2. Smiley wanted that one.
Yes, yeah, and for good reason. That was a good fastball that he actually brought down in the zone, drove it downhill. That's a great pitch.
Could have been called.
Those balls down have not been.
Rays dugout getting on Wolcott about that last one, and now the count goes full. Fuld on second. Donaldson on first. 1 out. We're in a scoreless game in the 4th. Swing and a miss at the breaking ball. Down goes Norris. Strikeout number 5.
And that may have been the changeup.
Wow.
Which, for a pitch that he does not go to very often. Oh boy, that was absolutely the right call. Whatever it was off speed.
We're still learning him.
And he was out in front. That's tough to say.
It's tough to tell. It could have been the curve. The curve doesn't have a lot. It has some bite like a changeup.
But that ball at 84 miles an hour, the curveball's been sitting
79, 80. Yeah.
Well, maybe he jumped on one.
Either way, it was a pretty pitch in a big spot. And here's Nate Fryman. Fryman struck out his first time up. 2 on, 2 outs. We figured out what that pitch was?
I think we did. I think we were going with a backdoor cutter.
Really?
At 84 miles an hour.
There you go.
But see, that's the thing. With him being so tall and lanky,
and
the way that he'd
over the top.
That's right. That's where he'll get that depth. And we'll think that it's anywhere from a changeup to a curveball or the cutter.
That's a good pitch right there. Fryman goes around. Let's take another look at that pitch, Bia, because you don't see a cutter have this action very often.
No, not at all. And you see his fingers right there on the side of the baseball as he's driving it. But look at the depth. Ooh. That's why some people think that that pitch, you know, can be a slider.
That is a nasty pitch. And he's ahead of Fryman, 0-1. We're learning about this lefty, Drew Smiley, along with you at home as we watch him intently for the first time as a Tampa Bay Ray. So far, so good. We're in the bottom of the 4th inning. Rays have 6 hits. A's have 3. Fryman held up. Nate was just added to the roster a couple of days ago. Big right-handed hitter. The A's don't have a lot of right-handed hitters. And when Nick Punto strained a hamstring, they went to this big fella who has some serious power. 284 at the AAA level with 15 home runs and 74 RBIs in 80 games. But a lot of moving parts in that swing as well. fouled it away, 1-2.
Yeah, I mean, tall. He's got the hands going, the bat going. Last at bat here with 2 strikes, and I don't know why you wouldn't try and do it again, but Drew Smyly was able to beat him with a letter-high fastball. And you see where the hands come down, there's so much movement, just so hard to get him back up to the pitch.
I would think Casale and Smyly, if they're on the same page, go right back to that here, ahead of the count 1-2, and try and end the inning with a high fastball.
And that's exactly what he's telling them.
Runners on the move, and they are both safe. There was a huge jump at second by Fold. Smyly almost forgot about the runners on that pitch.
Yep, and he was so intent on making that fastball up, making that pitch, that he lost concentration on the runners. And look at Fold. Fold was actually off and running before Drew picked up that front leg. Easy steal for both of them. That's all right. You just retire the hitter, and it doesn't matter.
But they're going to walk him in a 2-2 count? Is that what I'm seeing?
No, you can't possibly.
This guy was late on a swing his last time up for strike 3. This is a surprising move here.
I don't know why you do this. You absolutely beat him like a drum in his last at-bat. And in a 2-2 count, you concede. I do not get that at all.
You would hope that if you don't want him to hit a rocket off you, if that's what you're afraid of, you'd try and get him to chase. Throw 2 high fastballs, see if he chases. I'm not sure Drew Smyly was thrilled with that decision.
I can't imagine anybody would be. You're like, I got 2-2. Let me get the hitter out. I've already burned him on a fastball up in the zone. You know, there's enough moving parts in his swing that if you don't trust me to get him out, who do you trust me to get out? And oh, by the way, I got 2 strikes on him.
2-2.
Yeah.
Let me throw 2 fastballs up, see if he chases.
That's it. And there's my intentional walk. But to concede the at-bat, I don't get it. Don't get it at all.
That's an unusual move right there. But Jim Hickey, I think, smartly, it may have been sent out by Joe, explaining the situation to Smyly, so he at least understands, or hopefully feels better about it going into the next hitter. Because you don't want him thinking about why did that just happen while you're dealing with a bases loaded situation.
Especially when the hitter that's coming up right now had a base hit his last time up. I mean, listen, I'm sure that we're going to learn that it was whatever. Let's move it along. I don't get it. I don't get that one at all.
You see what Reddick has done in his career with the bases loaded. Did have a base hit his last time up against Smyly and rips this one into the crowd. Foul, 0-1.
That poor lady had her life pass before her eyes. That was a bullet that was bearing all over her.
And now she's happy.
The power of a rubbed-up game-used baseball.
Smyly, bases loaded, 2 outs. The pitch is fouled away and Drew ahead 0-2.
You just hope that Drew Smyly able to persevere here, come back, get Reddick, get out of this inning. But that will be, I can't wait to hear the explanation of that, because you know there is one. Nothing is done from Joe Madden from the dugout without an explanation or reason behind it, and I'll be real interested to hear this one.
Now they want to elevate against Reddick. They do. He doesn't chase. 1-2.
Remember, he went with the cutter last time, and Reddick did a nice job of staying back on it, really cutting down his swing, and he found a hole up the middle for a base hit.
One and 2 the count. Popped high in the air on the infield. Cole Figueroa under it. And the Rays get out of a bases loaded situation. We're still scoreless from O.Coke Coliseum heading to the 5th. Yankees set to return to Tropicana Field on Sunday, August 17th. Kids 14 and under will get a Mr. Happy bobblehead, courtesy of Trade-Wind Island Resorts, while supplies last, as part of Family Fun Day, presented by the Tampa Bay Times. For tickets, call 888-FAN-RAYS or visit RaysBaseball.com. The Trade-Winds Island Resort going with a Mr. Happy bobblehead.
You know what that is right there?
What?
That is exactly a recreation of Jim Hickey as Drew Smyly was coming off the field that last half inning. Big hug.
Here we go into the fifth inning. And Desmond Jennings will lead off for the third time tonight. Led off the game, obviously. Led off the third, and now he'll lead off the fifth. As Hickey would have been giving him a big hug after getting out of a bases loaded situation when the Rays intentionally walked Nate Fryman with a 2-2 count. That could have been very dangerous. It did not backfire on them. Now the count's 2-0 on Desmond Jennings.
You bite your tongue, Todd Callis. That was Hall of Famer Nate Fryman. He's the only guy.
I hear you. They have a lot of respect for the big fella. 2-0 the count to Desmond. He pops one foul towards us and just below us. Desmond taking on Jason Hamill tonight. These two guys know each other a little bit. Desmond 0 for 1 tonight. Did walk and was retired on a fielder's choice. The Rays hit into 2 double plays in the second and the third, and they've left 6 men the last 3 innings. There's a swing and a miss, 2-2.
Yeah, and you don't want this to turn into a situation where you lament missed opportunities early in a ball game. And that has happened far too often with this Rays offense, especially the first couple of months in the season where things were not clicking.
Including Jason Hamill, the A's have 4 members of the 2008 Rays AL Championship team on their current roster. 6 overall that played with the Rays, but 4 on the 08 team. The Rays have just 2 on their current roster that played in the 08 on the 08 team.
The last time I checked, that 08 team went to the World Series.
Pretty good.
I'd like to have those players.
Hamill, John Jaso, just a few at-bats in the 08 season. Obviously, Johnny Gomes. Sam Fold was not on the 08 team, but Scott Kazmir was, and Stephen Vogt wasn't, but he played more recently with the Rays. Here's a pop foul and out of play. You know, Voters, go ahead. Voters going through, Stephen Vogt's going through a struggle right now where he's over his last 20.
Yeah, but prior to that, he was playing such inspired baseball.
Playing good first base, too.
Yep. Well, you remember that struggle that he had with the Rays trying to get his first major league hit.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The last time he had a streak that long with an offer was when he started his career with the Rays, when he was 0 for 25 to start. That pitch misses, 3-2. So a leadoff walk to Desmond Jennings. There's Scotty Kazmir. What a year he's having.
How about the turnaround?
Oh, my goodness.
You know, he goes from the Sugar Land Skeeters to the Cleveland Indians, deals for them, gets a nice contract for Oakland this year, and off to another, well, not off to, been doing it all season, over 4 months in, 12-4, they have ERA just above 2.5.
Here's Ben Zobrist. Zobrist is 0 for 2 tonight, 0 for 6 in this series thus far. Coming off a homestand where he tore it up to about a 500 clip. Fouls one away. You know what was impressive about what Billy Beane did with this team? They had the best ERA when he started making these deals. They already had a good thing going, but he said, I need to add more to it. And then you see Samardzija come over, and you see Jason Hamill come over. And they weren't done then. Now all of a sudden, John Lester's here.
Yeah. Well, since 2000, this team, they won a division series, swept the Twins in 2006. Outside of that, they have lost 6 Game 5s to get knocked out of the playoffs in that division series, that first round series. And so, they've won the American League West the last 2 years. They're in a tight battle this year. And I think this was Billy Beane's opportunity with this group of players to say, you know what, let's forget about looking short term, getting into the postseason. Let's go make some moves that are going to make a huge difference. And that's what he's done with these names, especially those starting pitchers. Go right to 1 and 2 in the rotation. And Sonny Gray may have something to say about that also, because he's another tremendous starter for the A's.
Yeah, how about that? You've got Sonny Gray, Scott Kazmir, even a Tommy Malone. A lot of people would have been happy with him in the rotation earlier in the year. He gets ousted from the rotation and then eventually traded for Sam Fold. There you see Samardzija. I mean, Kazmir's in place. You got Jesse Chavez, who actually is another former Ray. Technically, he was with the team for about a month in the offseason. One pitch is ripped and it hits the umpire in foul territory. That's a foul ball. That smoked John Tumpane.
Well, yes, it did. Yes, it did. My goodness.
He's playing it off, but that had to hurt.
Yep. It's shots like this that make you wonder when are the umpires going to start wearing helmets on the lines, like the first third base coach, because that ball, he had no chance of getting out of the way there. You hope it got the belt buckle.
Zobrist now down in the count 1-2. Bounces past Norris all the way to the backstop. That pitch hit well in front of the plate.
Stayed on the fingers there at Jason Hamill far too long. He just spikes it. That looked like it was going to be a curveball.
I mean, that hit just beyond the grass cutoff.
Yeah, where was the cutoff man? Not in position, apparently.
That was a spiked pitch, to say the least. 2-2 the count. Now Rays with a runner in scoring position. Zobrist hits one to short. On the move is Jennings. They play there, and a great throw and a great tag. That was a tough play by Sogard. Jennings retired.
I'll tell you what, that was a Desmond Jennings making a very aggressive decision there. Not a very good one, considering nobody out. You're already in scoring position as it is, and a ball hit sharply right to the shortstop. And it was a tough play, but made nonetheless, and they wipe out another base runner for the Rays. That's a tough one to lose, too. That ball out in front of him and hit sharply. Had to actually hold up a little bit to let that ball go by him, and thrown out a third.
So now a runner on first and one out for Matt Joyce. Takes a breaking ball for a strike. Nothing in two. The one thing Desmond did, even though it may have been a little over-aggressive on the bases, once he realized they were going to try and make a play to third, he did try to run to the outside part of the baseline to at least get in the path of Sogard. Sogard was able to make the throw either way.
Well, Sogard, right-handed thrower, obviously, and he's got depth, so that gives him the angle. And so even though, like you said, it was a tough play, he still had a good shot in there. Just a tough way to lose a base runner in a scoreless game.
Can you see that shot right there where we had Casale's hand in the background?
Yeah.
Kurt Casale.
That's very, very pretty.
He's got the bright fingernails. Mm-hmm. So in theory, the pitcher can see the signs if you were going to give signs the normal way.
If that's there for baseball purposes.
He's fouled back. Tonight we have seen Casale go to the signals where you touch legs, head, mask, chest protector, but not the normal signs.
This is where we're going to save him. We're going to save him with this one.
What do you have?
More than likely, you're going to get someone coming in from the bullpen.
There you
and
go.
Then they come into play.
Always thinking ahead, BA.
I think that is too light of a shade for him.
1-2 the count on Matt Joyce. He singled his last time up, 1 for 2. Swing and a miss. That's the first strikeout for Hamill since the second, and his second in the game.
Now, and he goes off speed. Matt Joyce, remember his last at bat, he hammered a fastball up the middle. And right here, Jason Hamill with the changeup, and boy, did he throw that one very, very well. just diving out of sight.
Evan Longoria steps in. He is struck out and hit into a double play. 0 for 2. Takes a fastball in the outer half. 0-1. ...80 pitches deep for Jason Hamill as we play here in the 5th. Hamill so far in his 4 starts with the A's has not gone beyond 5 2/3 innings. Zobrist on the move, hit well but foul by Longoria. Now Hamill ahead of the count, 0-2. By far the best start for Hamill since he's joined this team. It's been a rough month of July, going all the way back to his final start with the Cubs. Now into the month of August, checks Zobrist at first.
When you look at his ERA by month, trending in the wrong direction. You know, he started off the season with a bang, an ERA just over 2 in April. Then it went to 3.44 in May, 3.45 in June, and then that unsightly 7.83 in the month of July.
In the air, shallow right, long run for Reddick. Can he get there? A diving attempt, the ball's loose. Zobrist is being held on a base hit by Longoria that stayed in the air for a while, but nobody could get there in time. There was a shift on the infield, and that took Callaspo way out of the play because that's normally a second baseman's ball.
Oh, second baseman that camps underneath that thing has a sandwich and something to drink to go along with it. You see where everybody's coming from. And this ball was up there for a long time and in and out of the glove. That would have been an unbelievable play by Reddick. Oh, just could not squeeze it.
So now the guy with the best success, as we take one more look at this, is how close he was to ending the inning.
Boy, that's all-out effort, and it that close.
The glove turning over cost him the catch. James Loney will now bat with runners on first and third and 2 outs. Loney has a single. He also lined out his first time up. His career numbers against Jason Hamill very good, coming into the game .316 with 3 home runs. Inside, ball 1.
And he's a guy, no matter how the Rays offense is going as a whole, he's the guy that when he comes up in situations like this, you feel the best about.
See Zobrist on third, Longoria on first. Loney ahead of the count, 1-0. Upstairs, 2-0. If you think 3 home runs is unusual for Loney against one pitcher, you see Escobar on deck. That's the most he's ever hit against any pitcher in his big league career, tied with another guy with a similar name, Cole Hamels. He's hit 3 home runs against. So Jason Hamill and Cole Hamels, the 2 guys that Loney has 3 home runs, the most of anybody he's faced in his big league career. On the ground, foul, 2-1. John Tumpain getting a little skittish at first.
I don't blame him.
George Hendrick has taken a position behind him, kind of using him as a screen.
He heard you.
He's got a bounty on him, and he does not want to be hit, because he's got 3 guys in between the batter and himself. That's a good pitch, 2-1.
Sure was. Good breaking ball there by Hamill. 83 miles an hour, and it was sharp and into the zone to even the count. But you know what? James Loney, another hitter, not afraid to hit with 2 strikes. And a lot of guys, you worry about them expanding their zone here. James Loney, very rarely does he do that.
in the air foul. We mentioned how much foul territory there is. Donaldson has a play, and he makes it for the final out. Oh, the Rays leave 2 more. They have now left 8 in the last 4 innings. We're halfway home, scoreless.
Let the game kind of settle in a little bit. Worked in some strikeouts, some good fastballs. That one climbing the ladder on Fryman. You see his punch outs and then just continue to work those pitches around. This was a big one here to get Josh Reddick. That was after the intentional pass on a 2-2 count to Fryman to get to Reddick. And he gets the weak pop-up, and obviously frustrating for the A's right fielder.
So we start the bottom of the 5th with a strike on the outside corner, 0-1. This ball is hammered to center field for a leadoff base hit. Alberto Callaspo with the single, and the A's now own 4 hits on the night.
Now you start to think about potential action here. This scoreless ball game, bottom of the 5th inning, a leadoff hit from your 8-hole hitter. That's why Evan Longoria is over talking to Drew Smyly right now, making sure that everybody's on the same page defensively if the A's try to put something on here.
Eric Sogard at the plate. Normally Sogard and Callaspo do not play in the same game. Sogard playing short tonight for just the 2nd time this season with Jed Lowry injuring that right index finger last night's game. Nothing serious, but out of the lineup. Evan Longoria is in tight on the infield, anticipating the potential for a bunt. No bunt shown, called strike.
That seems to be the new way of doing things now, is don't show anything on the first pitch and then turn around and lay one down on pitch number 2. And you would figure the way that Drew Smyly is able to handle left-handed hitters coming into play today, just a 176 average against him, and you're hitting in the 9-hole, this would be the time to bunt. Now the Rays right there counteract that with the throw to Callaspo, not because you think you're going to pick him off, because you want to see if Eric Sogard tips his hand a little early and maybe starts to square, and then you know what the A's plans are. Cat and mouse game going on here in the bottom of the 5th.
Bunt is shown. It's bunted back to the pitcher. Smyly only has one play, and they barely get Sogard. Evan Longoria couldn't have been any closer at third, but Sogard bunted it nicely and deaded it right in front of the mound.
Yeah, that was a nice job by Eric Sogard. He comes around late to try not to tip it off after taking that first pitch, and now he's going to come over, see how late it is, and look at Evan come charging down, and he deadens that ball right in front of the mound and almost beats it out. You see him got a little bit of a head start too. Bang, bang.
So here's Coco Crisp. He missed 7 games prior to last night. He's suffering from a little bit of a neck injury, but pinch hit last night, stayed in the game in center field, ended up getting another at bat, and tonight making his first start in over a week. In the dirt, blocked nicely by the rookie catcher Casale.
You don't know how big that was here in this situation, because if that ball bounces away from Casale, he doesn't do such a nice job of deadening that in front of him. Now all of a sudden you're going to have a base runner on third here with just 1 out. Prime opportunity for the A's to drive him in. Well done.
Into right field, base hit. Kiermaier with the gun. Here comes Callaspo. The throw is way too high. And Smiley now getting to the ball, was not backing up the plate, and Crisp goes all the way to third.
Well, that's why you do it. That's why, on a hit like that, you've got to, if you're Drew Smiley, you peel off out of there and get as much depth as you can get behind Casale. There's no other play except for a play to the plate. And Kiermaier aggressively comes up. Look where Drew Smiley is right there. He's not even behind Casale. He's still in the field of play. And with that airmail, it cost the Rays another 90 feet. You see how far off the throw was. And you see where Drew Smiley is right there. When you give that base hit up, this is Drew Smiley right there. And that's where you got to be way back in this area. Sometimes if there's runners on first and second and you're not sure where the throw's going to go, you'll split the difference between third and home. And then as you see the fielder start to wind up, you read where he's thrown and make your break. But you have to get behind the catcher, the third baseman, whoever it is, and get as much depth as you can. If he would have been there, the run's still going to score, but you catch that ball and you keep Crisp at second base.
And now the Rays may elect to go infield in with 1 out. That's the difference.
Yep.
And you've got Sam Fold, the hitter. This is a game where run here and a run there makes a big difference, and the Rays are going to try and cut off this next run by bringing the infield in with 1 out.
You really up the degree of difficulty.
Coco Crisp in his first start back in over a week with RBI number 33 of the year gives the A's their first run of the night and the first run of this game. Sam Fold fouls one back. Sam was called out on a fastball in the inner half his first time up, and also cued one off the end of his bat for a little squibbing infield single his last time up.
Yeah, and I wouldn't put it past the A's here to have a little something on. Sam Fold handles the bat well. Coco Crisp, he runs very well.
There is a strike, 0-2. So Smiley's been ahead of Fold all 3 at bats tonight, 0-2. One and two the count. Fold has played in every game since he was acquired at the trade deadline from the Minnesota Twins, back where he started this season with the Oakland A's. On the ground foul.
Well, it certainly looked by the way that Coco Crisp took off for home plate that they are going to be going on contact.
Why not?
Yeah, well, infield in, sometimes you're leery to do that, but the A's are going to take their chances. And if Sam Fuld puts this ball into play, Coco Crisp is off and running as long as he doesn't read a line drive or a pop-up.
So the pressure will be on the Rays infield if they do field the grounder to get it cleanly to home plate in front of the speedy Coco Crisp. In the dirt. Now it's 2-2. On deck, RBI leader Josh Donaldson. Good numbers against Drew Smiley.
I got a question for you.
Yes.
2-2 now. Do you pitch to him or you just walk him, put him on? Go after Donaldson.
Late night with the Rays. Runner on third and one out. Callaspo started this inning with a line drive single. He scored after a sacrifice when Coco Crisp singled into right. Smiley was ahead of Fuld 0-2. Now it's 2-2. Swing and a miss. Big strikeout for Drew Smiley. 2 outs.
Boy, that was a huge strikeout. And Drew Smiley, he goes with that cutter, driving it downhill, 83 miles an hour. And you see he gets Sam Fuld to chase. And a nice block by Casale.
And the reason he can get so much depth on his cutter is because of his arm angle?
Well, he's tall and he has that high arm angle. That's absolutely right. And that's why you go to these different sites that track a guy's stuff. You even talk to different hitting coaches. And some will have it as a cutter, some will have it as a slider. And if you have it as a slider, it's because of that arm angle and driving that ball downhill. It gives the appearance, of a more of a breaking ball than a true cutter. When you think about a cutter, you think about a pitch that stays pretty much on the same plane. A little cutting action, maybe a little bit of depth. But his, because he's coming from almost over the top on the side of the baseball, it's more of that Andy Pettitte type of cutter, right, where you get a lot of depth with it.
Well, he calls it a cutter, but you could easily call it a slider. It's more of a semantic thing.
Well, Alex Cobb calls his changeup a changeup, and a lot of people would call that a split.
Mm-hmm. That's the slower breaking ball, the curve ball, and that's in the dirt, 1-1.
And he really throws it like a cutter. I mean, he's not trying to get that ball out in front and wrap it late. I mean, he's just getting those fingers to the outside, but arm angle, and driving it downhill. That's the action that he gets.
Big spot here. Can Smiley get a guy who has given him trouble throughout his starts against Oakland? Donaldson now 4 for 5, home run, couple of doubles, a walk. And it counts 2-1 on the A's third baseman.
Yeah, you just got to be careful here because this is a guy who does have a history against you that you just referenced and now has the count in his favor. And oh, by the way, a runner down at third base that he wants nothing more than to drive in.
On the ground hard, nicely played by Evan Longoria. One third baseman retires the other, and the Rays get through the fifth with only 1 run scoring on 2 hits and 1 man left on third. We're heading to the 6th, 1-0 A's. That's great right there. Even different size DJ Kitty hats on that graphic. Angry BA with the DJ Kitty hat. It is our oh, look at this. So yes. No longer are they Jake in the box, at least for this road trip. Tomorrow, the Rays will be traveling again to Chicago wearing the James Bond 007 look, and Jake and Brad decided to go Dumb and Dumber.
That was genius. That was
really good.
Genius.
It was really well played.
It really was.
And to be honest, two guys that you wouldn't necessarily think would go in that direction.
No.
They're not necessarily the craziest personalities in the clubhouse.
No. Very conservative and quiet. And yet they're the back end of the bullpen guys.
Yep.
And they go that. Matching shoes.
Oh, it's really well done. Want to know the count to Yunel Escobar. Rays doing the theme trip here to San Francisco / Oakland, and then all the way into Chicago tomorrow after the game.
Why are you looking at me like that?
I thought you had something to go with there. Rays trailing 1-0 as Jason Hamill has thrown 89 pitches. Starting out this inning with a 2-0 count, now 3-0 on Yuni Escobar. How about Cole Figueroa? He's got a couple of hits. He waits on deck. He and Kurt Casale have been on base all 4 times as the 7 and 8 hitters for the Rays tonight. Way upstairs, ball 4. Jason Hamill with a 1-0 lead walks Yunel Escobar to start the 6th inning on 4 pitches, and there has been action going for the last minute or so in the Oakland bullpen.
Well, listen, the Rays, the last 4 innings, have put the leadoff man aboard 3 times via the walk. Now, let's get something done here. And you see, that's exactly why the double barrel action and quick.
Hey, Rays fans, don't miss tomorrow's Wednesday showdown presented by Mazda as the Rays take on the Oakland A's at 3:30 here on Sun Sports. Dwayne Staats back in the chair tomorrow with BA. I'll be gathering some questions from the Rays fans on our website Wednesday, Ask the Announcer. Wrap up to this 3-game series with the Oakland A's.
Number 35, Cole.
Saw the double barrel action for the A's. Dan Otero was the righty, and the lefty Eric O'Flaherty. So Figueroa bats here with nobody out and a leadoff walk to Yunel Escobar. Expecting bunt all the way in was Donaldson. No sign from Figueroa of a bunt. And he takes a pitch for a strike.
But this is the same thing that the Rays did. Take that first pitch, and then, or the A's, I'm sorry, Eric Sogard took a first pitch, and then all of a sudden laid down the bunt. Maybe the Rays thinking the same thing.
Last night the Rays did the same thing with Brandon Guyer in their first and third bunt play. Took the first pitch, bunted the second one, but unfortunately bunted into an out at home. A little bit low, 1-1. Rays in game 2 of what is a 10-game, 11-day road trip as the lefty Jeff Beliveau warms up in the Rays bullpen. It is the final 3-city trip of the year for Tampa Bay. 4 prior to the All-Star break, and the 5th one the Rays currently a part of. Just misses the corner. Norris held it an extra second, but no call from Quinn Wolcott, the 28-year-old home plate umpire.
Borderline pitch here in a 1-1 count, and that swings it in favor of Cole Figueroa, as you see by Fox Tracks. That pitch missing off the plate.
In the air to left field, slicing away from Fold, but he gets there in a hurry and makes the play for the first out.
I'll tell you what, from our vantage point, a nice read by Sam Fold, and especially knowing that from a left-handed hitter, there's going to be some slice on that. So he's not only going to have to go where the ball initially is headed off the bat, but he's going to have to add to that because of the slicing action. And he does a nice job of tracking this line drive.
Cam wore 29 his first time with the A's, and 29 was taken by Jeff Samardzija this time around, so went back to 23. She actually likes better anyhow, because he said 2 + 3 = 5. 5 was his number with the Rays. Always doing math.
Fun with math.
Here's a throw to first as Curt Casali, who's been on base twice, faces Jason Hamill. Hamill now up to 95 pitches. Casali has walked and hit a line drive single his last time up.
See, I think the fingernail polish of Derek Norris is more in line with what you would think with Curt Casali. He's going more with the fluorescent. Is there any doubt what he just called for there?
Well, fastball.
Throw over.
There goes the runner off the fist, popped up to third. Escobar could be in trouble. Donaldson's throw is off the bag, and Escobar is safe. Donaldson had some time to make the throw and kind of threw like a changeup over there.
How many times do you see that? When a guy has a lot of time, he does not make a throw in rhythm. We see that all the time with pitchers coming off the mound. But this right here, a jam shot on that fastball, and then he just kind of feathers this ball.
Rays catch a break. That could have easily been a double play and would have had Jason Hamill out of the 6th. Instead, it looks like his night is over, and it is, as Bob Melvin comes out of the dugout. Well, he'll get a nice hand from this crowd. This is his best start of 5 as an Oakland A, as he goes 5 1/3 innings. So far, shutout baseball, responsible, 5 2/3 innings so far of shutout baseball. 1-0 A's. Late night with the Rays. It is the Rays trailing Oakland 1-0 in the bottom half of the 6th inning. Thanks for staying up past midnight with us as we bring you our final late night with the Rays of the season.
I would buy stock from you.
New pitcher for the A's is the lefty Dan Otero. That was the nerd trip.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, any stock advice you'd have given me.
Oh, excuse me, Eric O'Flaherty's the new pitcher. I said Dan Otero. The lefty against the lefty. As the nerd with the bow tie, you mean?
Yeah.
Look at Jason Hamill. He was pretty happy walking to that dugout. It was like a big sigh of relief for what's happened to him here in Oakland.
0-4, 4 starts, an ERA over 9.5. You had better believe it to be able to walk out, not having give up an earned run to this point. Still has a runner out there that he is responsible for.
O'Flaherty's so tough on lefties ahead of Kiermaier 1-2. swing and a miss. O'Flaherty comes in to get the lefty and gets the job done. That means the A's lead through 5.5 by the score of 1-0. Is brought to you by Bert Smith Volkswagen, Tampa Bay's home of driving excitement. Visit BertSmithVW.com. And by Navy Federal Credit Union. 4 million members, 4 million stories. Navy Federal Credit Union. We head to the bottom half of the 6th inning from Oakland, California, not far from the cable cars in San Francisco. I mean, seriously,
they're getting better.
How
they
much,
are ramping
is
up.
this a much higher percentage of shots of me tonight?
No,
than normal. Come on.
No, this happens a lot.
Really?
Listen, you're the star more than you know.
No, we don't need that. Here's Johnny Gomes swinging through a pitch from Drew Smiley, 0-1. 93 pitches through 5 for Smiley, as the Rays still have Jeff Beliveau up in the bullpen. Oakland with 1 run on 5 hits. The Rays no runs on 7 hits. Jason Hamill able to go 5 2/3 without allowing a run. 7 hits and 4 walks. Rays had a lot of base runners that just not able to drive any home.
Yeah, and frustrating so far. You hope that the Rays can get something going here the last couple of innings, because they've had chances. I mean, the last 4 innings, he had given up a base runner to start that inning off 3 times via the walk, and yet the Rays still without anything on the scoreboard.
Drew Smiley is going to be a part of the Major League record books as a staff no matter what happens tonight, because the quickest to 1,000 strikeouts in Major League history currently is held by the 2013 Tigers. They did it in the 114th game. The Rays need 2 more strikeouts to do it this year and set a new record in the 113th game. Smiley has 6 strikeouts so far. Rays needed 8 coming into tonight's play. Smiley actually pitched in that 114th game last year, which was the record setter for the Tigers. The Rays have struck out hitters at a higher clip than anybody in the history of the game in 2014. A lot of that has to do with their strikeout bullpen, too.
Oh, yeah.
And David Price, obviously, was a huge factor. Jake Odorizzi. 1-2 pitch. Gomes tried to hold up, and he did. It's 2-2.
Listen, if you have a staff that can go out there and rack up strikeouts, you know what did the Rays want to do better this year offensively? Put the ball in play, cut down on their strikeouts, so it gives you a chance. Well, just the opposite's true when you're pitching. You can miss bats, you cut down on chances for hits.
Oh, ripped to center, but right at Desmond Jennings. 2-2 pitch hit hard by Johnny Gomes, but he's retired for the first out here in the 6th. David Price did make his debut tonight in Yankee Stadium, where he made his major league debut with the Rays back in 2008. You can see he went 8 2/3 innings. We've seen the no-walk, 10 strikeout line before. 8 hits, 3 runs, all earned, 112 pitches. Left the game with a no decision. The Yankees would lose in extra innings to the Tigers 4-3.
Yeah, and a big reason why, David Price, he was down a lot of that game. The Yankees had taken an early lead against him. He just hung in there all the way, let his offense have a chance. They tied it late, and then obviously win it in extra innings. A tremendous job by David Price, as we're used to seeing. I mean, pitching into the 9th again. 10 strikeouts, no walks again.
It was unusual to see him in a Tigers uniform.
Well, we had the game. You had it right here, and to see him make that first pitch, and it was like, interesting.
A little odd.
Interesting look, but gave his typical tremendous performance.
Brian McCann, Martin Prado hitting solo home runs against Price today. Here's another ball into the air in left field for a base hit, as Derek Norris is a 1-out base runner. 1 out, 1 on, and Nate Fryman will step to the plate. Fryman was intentionally walked the last time up on a 2-2 count with runners on second and third and 2 outs to get to Josh Reddick, who was on deck. But he struck out swinging his first time up against Smiley on 3 pitches. He does take a big hack at the plate. Breaking ball low and inside for a ball, 1-0. 6'8" first baseman. 15 homers, 74 runs batted in at the minor league level this year. Back with the A's. 2-0. He and Chris Blanks, their other first baseman who's about to go on a rehab assignment, they take BP. They look like they are in the stadium for the Raiders and not the A's. And it both could be about tight ends or
left tackles, D-end,
defensive ends at the NFL level. Swing and a miss. 2-1.
Does not get cheated, and that's the thing. If he's able to make contact and hit a ball solidly, that 6'8" frame, you start to think of a guy like Richie Sexson.
Mm-hmm.
They're not big muscle-bound guys, but they create so much leverage that when they catch one crisply, it is going to take off. And I think that's what Joe Madden was thinking last time up. And even though 2-2 count, I think he made no bones about putting him on.
Fouled away. It's 2-2.
But as we saw in the first at-bat, you can climb the ladder on him, and that's something that Smiley has shown the ability to do. And here it is, that 2-2 count. Let's see how it plays out.
It's got to be unusual, BA, as a pitcher, to try and climb a ladder on a guy that tall.
Yes.
Because you're hitting a spot that you're not normally trying to hit.
No, that's absolutely right, and that's why it's much more difficult pitch to execute than you would think. We think just throw it up in the zone. Well, you're taught your whole life as a pitcher to work down in the zone. Then you got to go up, and now you got to go up against a guy that's 6'8".
2-2. See where the Rays go here. Right in the middle of the plate, and he hammers it towards the left field corner. This is going to go off the wall. Zobers will have to play it back in a hurry. They're sending the runner. The relay throw by Escobar is wide, and it gets past Casale. All the way to third goes Fryman.
Escobar was completely surprised. Completely surprised that Norris was trying to score. As he got that ball and turned to look in, he got aggressive with the throw. Just his body language, he was not expecting that, and he ends up yanking this throw badly off of Casale. That ball did not get up in the zone. It stayed right about thigh high, and it gets rifled into the corner. But watch here. Oh, now you're going, and he just yanks it. Well wide of the plate, no play. And gets by Casale, and another move up by the A's.
Well, both runs that have scored for Oakland tonight have been plays at the plate. Both times the throw got away. allowing the runner to advance at extra base. That's the end of the night for Drew Smyly in his Rays debut. Dugout goes 5 1/3 innings in his Rays debut. So far, he's allowed 2 runs, responsible for the runner on third as well. 7 hits, a couple of walks, 6 strikeouts. All in all, I thought he pitched pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, this ball here that gets down into the corner, you see Yanel Escobar taking a look and realizing, uh-oh, they're going to try and score him. He's got a very strong arm, but he yanks that throw well wide of home plate. Gets by Casale.
And you could see Evan Longoria ducking, so you would hope or think that Evan had yelled to him that the runner's heading home. That's usually what the runner or the guy who's not the cut man is trying to get some communication to the man who is the cut man.
Yeah, and the Rays are typically very good at that communication.
It does get loud in here.
It does.
And there's a possibility Uni didn't hear it, but he did look surprised as you look at Jeff Beliveau's numbers on the year, appearing in his 8th game with the Rays.
8 2/3 innings of work, just the 1 walk, very good. Cannot have base runners in late situations like this.
Beliveau ahead of Reddick, 0-2.
Well, Reddick was so upset with himself after popping out with the bases loaded and 2 outs, and now here he's got an opportunity. Runner at third with just 1 out, infield pulled in. But he's quickly fallen down in the count 0-2. And I think we saw Fryman with that shot down into the corner. I think that's what Joe Madden had in mind when he ended up putting him on in a 2-2 count. Did not want to see that.
Infield in, 0-2 count. On the ground. Wow. Other way. Right past the drawn in infield, and it's 3-0 Oakland.
And wait until you see this swing by Josh Reddick. And everybody getting a laugh out of this on the Oakland side, because that was just an excuse me, get the bat out there. And it found a hole.
Now batting, second baseman, number 7, Alberto Callasco.
So that run charged to Drew Smyly. His line is now complete for the night, as Reddick reacts to that little swing the other way. 3 runs on Smiley's docket in 5 1/3 innings. One of those nights where it felt like a couple breaks here and there. Maybe he gives up 1 or none. A couple plays at the plate, throws going wide, runners advancing on errors. Kiermaier had to throw high, Escobar had to throw wide, both getting away from Casale.
At both times, you're sitting there saying they've got a shot at this guy at the plate. Derek Norris trying to score all the way from first. And that throw wide there, challenging Kiermaier's arm out in shallow right field. You're thinking, here's a good shot. He happens to airmail Casale.
Mike Gallego has been very aggressive in the third base coach's box tonight, and it's paid off for the A's in a 3-0 lead. High fly ball center field off the bat of Alberto Callaspo. Desmond Jennings puts it away for out number 2.
Number 28, Eric Sogard.
9 men left on base for the Rays. The A's have left 5 on coming into this inning, so both teams have had about the same number of base runners, just the A's have driven in theirs at a better rate than the Rays have. 7 walks, 4 hits against Jason Hammel without a run for Tampa Bay. Eric Sogard, the batter, sacrificed his last time up. Pellevo misses high inside, 1-0. Pellevo last pitched against the Angels. Allowed a couple of runs in an inning and a third. It was the first runs of the year allowed by the left-hander Pellevo, who's been back and forth between the Rays and AAA Durham 5 times this year. This time staying for his longest stretch. Rays really like this left-hander out of the pen. Misses away, 2-0.
Well, he's a guy that is not going to come in and blow you away with big numbers and big velocity. But what he is going to do is move an upper 80s fastball around the zone and give you a little bit of deception with his delivery with that sweeping breaking ball, which is very effective against left-handed hitters as it moves down and away from them.
Doesn't miss by much. It's 3-0.
His makeup has allowed him to come into some difficult spots, but get some big outs for the Rays. In another tight spot here with Coco Crisp looming and a 3-0 count. Last thing you want to do, we referenced his walks on the season so far. Don't need one here.
There's a strike, 3-1. The A's have quite a combination with leading the majors in walks and the second fewest strikeouts. Very patient at the plate, drawing walks, but not many strikeouts either. So they are a selective team as Sogard draws the 2-out walk, first and second with 2 outs. Hey fans, follow every Rays game with the MLB.com @bat on your favorite mobile phone or tablet. Get live look-ins, instant replay, scores, stats, audio, free MLB.TV game of the day, and more by downloading on the App Store or visit RaysBaseball.com today. Joe Madden knows tomorrow is a quick turnaround. And he also knows that his starter, Jeremy Hellickson, has not given him very many innings in his first 3 starts with the Rays. So he may let Jeff Pellevo pitch not only this inning, but through the 7th as well, if he can.
And that's where that really hamstrings you. You know, where you're not able to count on somebody to give you deep innings, and that's not saying that Jeremy Hellickson won't go out and fire 7 strong tomorrow, but you're not going to bank on that, and so you'll run your pen differently the night before.
Yeah, no doubt. He hasn't gone more than 5 innings or 5 innings in any of his 3 starts to this point. So you hope he gets it going tomorrow, but with that in mind, I would think that he's going to save some of his bullets if he can. 1-1 to count to Coco Crisp.
And it's always tough to save bullets when you're trying to keep a team from expanding a lead.
Sure.
You know, you want to go with matchups and be able to stop this inning. I'm not saying that he would, given other circumstances, but it really limits you in being able to do that.
That one crossed up Casale as both runners advance. A breaking ball in the inner half that simply bounced off Casale's glove, and they will go over the signs here, I would think. No word there, but that looked like Kurt got crossed up.
Well, here it is. see that ball moving in towards Crisp.
He just tried to backhand it.
Yeah, that ball had so much break on it and swept so much that he just was never able to get the glove to it in a manner that would allow him to catch it clean. I mean, it just, like you said, he tried to.
So now they'll go ahead and intentionally walk Crisp. Second intentional walk of the night issued by the Rays. They also intentionally walked Nate Fryman.
See how he tries to inside out with that glove and then just go too far, and you really cut the angle of which the ball is going to enter the pocket of that catcher's mitt.
That was a really good look because you could see he was done. He couldn't rotate any further on his wrist.
No, that's late break, and you'd like to see him open that catcher's mitt up, but sometimes you get caught and you're thinking, okay, I'm going to freeze this thing inside, and it just keeps breaking. You keep rolling that thumb out there and you run out of wrist.
So the pass ball and then the intentional walk, and the Rays are dealing with another bases loaded situation. Seems like last night Alex Cobb had the bases loaded every other inning, and the A's ended up leaving 18 men on base. Tonight, this is the second inning in the last 3 where the A's have had the bases loaded. And Sam Fuld will be the hitter.
Now batting center fielder, the 23, Sam Fuld.
Fuld with a cue shot infield base hit. He's also struck out twice. Those at bats against the starter Drew Smiley. Now facing another lefty, Jeff Beliveau. Called strike. One and one to count to Fuld. Sam has been much hotter lately, 322 over his last 20 games coming in. That includes 17 walks, so his on-base percentage well up there. Fouls this one away, 1-2. Saw Otero up earlier. He has been joined by Ryan Cook, Dan Otero and Ryan Cook. A couple of righties loosening up in the A's bullpen.
Well, you've seen Beliveau from time to time elevate that fastball. And when he does it from the arm angle that he comes at you from, that really creates some deception with that ball up around the letters. And right now, Sam Fuld in survival mode, just trying to put this ball in play. Beliveau trying to catch him by surprise.
On the ground, Figueroa to his left, and the Rays escape any further damage, but Oakland scores 2, and they leave the bases loaded. We head to the 7th, 3-0 A's. We head to the 7th inning on the night when not only did David Price make his debut for the Tigers, but Drew Smyly made his debut for the Rays. What are your thoughts on his outing? Well, we see some strikeouts here early on. Smyly was able to get Nate Fryman chasing that high fastball.
Well, you know what I think is there's a lot here to work with. You know, this is a kid that, you know, he's got, 36, 37 career starts in the big leagues. You can see a four-seam fastball that he can move around and elevate while working down in the zone. A good curveball that he gets a lot of depth with. He can create some deception with that arm angle. I'll be real interested to see if that changeup becomes a big pitch for him. But I definitely think that you see a kid that, you know, initial return, initial reaction to what he's going to bring the Rays is you think Jake Odorizzi from the left side. I mean, that's what really comes to mind. Doesn't have a lot of sink, a lot of run with that heater, but he can drive it to spots, and you love the fact that he's a tall, athletic kid, you know, that can really get the ball, you know, up over the top and drive it downhill.
Ryan Cook, the new pitcher for the A's, taking over here in the 7th inning, and he'll face the top of the Tampa Bay lineup with Desmond Jennings leading off for the 4th different time tonight. Lit off the 1st, 3rd, 5th, and now the 7th.
You know, these starts too, you know, coming over to a new team that has playoff aspirations and where every game really means something, and that's talking about Smyly with the Rays. These are tough starts to make. I think you'll see him settle in even more. You know, early in the game was struggling with Kurt Casale, trying to get on the same page with the signs.
And keep in mind, he is 24 years old. So when you think about the Rays rotation and their current ages, you've actually got Jeremy Hellickson as the oldest of the 5, followed by Alex Cobb, then Chris Archer. Then you have Drew Smyly, and then Jake Odorizzi. Jennings behind in the count, 0-2. There is a call, 3rd strike. Desmond doesn't like the call, but he's out on 3 pitches for the first out of the 7th.
And that doesn't even call in Matt Moore.
And Matt Moore slots in right around today's starter, Drew Smyly.
Good breaking ball right there, right on the outside edge. Picking up that first out. So, yeah, I mean, you've got some youth in that Rays rotation right now. Talented youth.
Smyly is 15 days older than Matt Moore. They were both born in June of '89. Moore on the 18th, Smyly on the 3rd, as Ben Zobrist sends one to Johnny Gomes for the 2nd out. Don't forget about tomorrow on Rays Live, the pregame show presented by your Gulf Coast Honda dealers. We will be promoting our Web Wednesday Ask the Announcer on our pregame show, and also you'll hear from Jeremy Hellickson. As he tries to go deeper into the game, he realizes he needs to do that more than ever now, with David Price not going 7 or 8 innings every 5 days in this Rays rotation. That's your Rays Live pregame show tomorrow, 3 o'clock Eastern, high noon here in Oakland. Brought to you by your Gulf Coast Honda dealers. Matt Joyce, 1 for 3 tonight. 2 outs, nobody aboard. Ryan Cook, who's been very good lately, could have an easy inning here as Sogard comes in quickly and makes the play, and that'll do it. A 1-2-3 inning for Ryan Cook. 7th inning stretch time here in Oakland. It's 3-0 A's. For the 7th inning, as promised earlier in the game, we have the AT&T fan photo of the game. Tweet your photo to #SunSportsFanPhoto for a chance to be shown in an upcoming game broadcast brought to you by AT&T. Rays fans out here in Oakland. And Kirby Yates, the new pitcher for the Rays here in the bottom half of the 7th inning. Kirby appearing for the 19th time this season.
Well, overall, good numbers for Kirby. That ERA, 2.66, more than a strikeout an inning, 23 and 20 in the third. The idea right here, the Rays going to try to get something going offensively late in this game. They've got to keep it right here at a 3-run deficit.
Josh Donaldson will be the first man Kirby Yates faces in this 7th. A's leading 3-0. Coco Crisp, Nate Fryman, and Josh Reddick with the RBIs tonight for the A's. The A's finally found their way into a 1-2-3 inning last inning, their first since the first. Rays pitchers have won 1-2-3 inning. That was Drew Smiley in the third. And the pitch is a strike to Donaldson, 0-1. You see Kirby. Fastball slider primarily, will occasionally mix in a changeup, but only to lefties. More sliders and fastballs to righties. And there's a fastball that Donaldson misses, 0-2. Yates, the third pitcher for the Rays tonight. Jeff Beliveau came on in the 6th inning. Allowed an inherited run, but then got through the 6th inning with the bases loaded for the final out by getting Sam Fold on a ground out. There's the slider away. Counts 1-2.
Yeah, the last couple times we've seen Kirby Yates, that slider has been sharp. Good pitch for him as he's a, as you pointed out, Todd, sinker slider. When he drives that ball downhill, gets the good sink, but even when he leaves one up in the zone, he gets a really good run with it. You run that in on the hands of right-handed hitters and sweep that slider away.
2-2 the count to Donaldson. While it is Cesar Ramos warming up the Rays bullpen. While it is late night with the Rays on the East Coast. Kirby Yates' family right now probably just settling in for some dinner on the island of Kauai. 2-2 pitch hit well to center field. Jennings back. He will leap and get it just above his head. Got a good jump. And there's one away here in the 7th.
Yeah, that ball was scalded by Josh Donaldson, and a really nice play there by Desmond Jennings on a ball hit very, very hard. It was going to be over his head if he doesn't get on his horse. Actually, Desmond doesn't need a horse. He is the horse. Get going quick. Look, those plays are made because of the jump.
Yeah.
And reading the ball off the bat. Any hesitation, if you don't get started in time, you're chasing that ball down.
The pride of Petaluma, California, Johnny Gomes at the plate. Doesn't agree with that call. He's 0 for 3, lined out to Jennings his last time up. Johnny very happy to be back in his hometown playing for the A's for his second go-round. Said it wasn't bad jumping on a flight, picking up 20 games in the standings when he landed.
No, not at all. And you talk about fitting in perfectly on a team. I mean, there's not many teams that Johnny Gomes wouldn't fit in now, but this Oakland Athletic team, tailor-made for him. You bring him over and able to use him from the right side of the plate. Sam Fold was a late addition at the trade deadline from the left side. The pitchers that they've brought in.
Line drive. This is going to go over the head of Cole Figueroa into center field. Figueroa was shaded up the middle. So position-wise, he was the right spot. Johnny just hit it about 5 to 10 feet over his head. Here's Derek Norris. Norris singled and scored. What turned out to be a very important run there. The second run of the game. Mike Gallego taking a chance on a ball to the wall in left field. Yunel Escobar's throw went wide. turned a 1-0 game into a 2-0 game, and that advanced another runner on the wide throw. Fryman would score to make it 3-0. Fouled back to the screen. So the A's with 3 runs on 9 hits. The Rays with no runs on 7 hits. A's trying to defeat Tampa Bay for the 4th time in 5 games this year. Rays had been playing so well on the road. They had a 9-2 road trip, a 5-0 road trip coming out of the All-Star break. Now in game 2 of this 10-game trip. Losing last night and trailing tonight. Now it's a 1-2 count on Norris.
Yeah, and the Rays really need to dig in their heels and stop this little slide. You know, they had played so well for so long, and all of a sudden now you look up and they've lost 4 of their last 5 and in danger of going 5 out of 6.
Lost the last game of that series to the Brewers, to the Rays, and lost 2 out of 3 to the Angels. And the first one here last night to Oakland. Swing and a miss. Kirby Yates gets Norris on a slider. That is strikeout number 7 for the Rays tonight, and the first for Kirby Yates. Saturday, MLB on Fox Sports 1 returns with a doubleheader as Derek Jeter and the Yankees face the Cleveland Indians, followed by the Cardinals taking on the Orioles. Coverage begins Saturday at 12:30 Eastern, only on Fox Sports 1 and streaming live on Fox Sports Go. Nate Fryman doubled home the second run of the game. Yates with a first pitch strike to Fryman, 0-1. Good pitch, outer half, 0-2.
Get the jump on Fryman here. Well, you see Fryman in the lineup tonight, different guys rotating in every night. This Oakland Athletic team really does a nice job with their platoon matchups. Make sure, just like the Rays do, that they use the entire roster. You're not going to sit for very long with these two teams. Keep everybody involved and keep it moving right along.
Well, they're as right-handed as they can get tonight, with Donaldson, Gomes, Norris, Fryman back-to-back to back-to-back. The only 4 righties in Bob Melvin's roster. He has a few switch hitters, Coco Crisp, Alberto Callaspo, and Jed Lowry, nursing a little bit of an injured finger. The rest are left-handed hitters. They have been left-handed dominant for a couple of years here in Oakland, and that's why when they traded Yoenis Cespedes, they had to get a right-handed hitter back in Johnny Gomes. They hope to get the big right-handed hitting first baseman Chris Blanks back at some point, but he and Fryman serve similar roles, and Fryman's up here now. See him wiggling around that bat. Another check off first. More than likely, with 2 outs here, Johnny's not going to go anywhere. He hasn't attempted a steal all year. Tried to hold up, but he went around. That is strikeout number 8 on the night for the Rays as they set a Major League mark. The quickest ever in Major League history to 1,000 strikeouts. Game number 113. And we're through 7 in Oakland with the Rays trailing 3-0. Rays for the final time in 2014. Thanks for staying up late with us. You almost missed that. Had you gone to sleep early? We are at O.K. Coliseum, and here's how the game has gone. Drew Smyly in his Tampa Bay Rays debut, 5 1/3 innings, 7 hits, 3 earned runs, 2 walks, 1 intentional, struck out 6. Jason Hamill went 1 more out in his start, 5 2/3, mixed in 7 hits and 4 walks without allowing a run, struck out 2.
You think I'd wise up?
I have not seen that one.
Neither have I, and so it means it's relatively new, and it means it was a screen grab from some camera that was rolling in the booth where I was apparently ranting about something, and my head was going to explode.
Here's Evan Longoria. First pitch from the new pitcher Luke Gregerson is inside for a ball, 1-0. Gregerson takes over for Ryan Cook here in the 8th. I don't think you're going to learn, because that means changing your entire personality.
Yeah, well,
and that's not going to happen.
Probably not.
At least not anytime soon.
Hey, listen, if that, I'll take it if that starts to replace that angry face
that's better.
photo that's had a lot of run, but really it's kind of petering out now.
I hear you. And this is our last late night with the Rays of the season, so maybe next year that loses its flavor in the mix and you get something new in there. Maybe that was a new shot that we'll use next year. 2-1 the count to Longo. This A's bullpen, by the way, I know what the Angels bullpen's been doing, but this A's bullpen is on a run right now. They are 19 2/3 scoreless. The guy that just was in there in the 7th, Ryan Cook, has gone 18 straight outings without a run. This guy on the mound now, Luke Gregerson, 13 straight without allowing a run.
I mean, really, it's very similar. You know, the Angels, you remember Joe Smith had gone 20-plus outings without giving up a run. Kevin Jepson had had 1 outing in his past, like 38 or 39, that he had given up a run. I'll tell you, that is how you play championship caliber baseball. You have starters that go out there, they pitch well, they keep you in the game, give you a chance to win, and then you roll in guys out of the bullpen that just shut it down. That's how you shorten games. And so you force a team to come in when you've got a really strong bullpen like that, and they say, we better get off to a quick start, and we better have a lead, because if we're down by the 6th inning, it's over.
Longo to center field, and there is Sam Fuld for the first out here in the 8th. That's now 7 in a row sent down by A's pitching, the last 5 by the bullpen. We have another picture for you, BA.
Yeah, see,
that's the one you want to lose.
You know how old that is?
And your earpiece is showing.
It's very unprofessional all around, but that's back when we were able to wear a collared shirt, a casual. Well, now, how long ago was that? 3 years?
That was at least, it's been a while since we wore casual.
Yeah.
Although it wouldn't be bad in Texas at the end of this road trip when it's supposed to be 100. Just saying.
There are no exceptions, and that comes right from the desk of our esteemed producer, Kevin Patterson.
Here is James Loney. Want to know the count to James.
He'll let you roll your sleeves up if it's really hot, but that's it. Nothing for on camera. And
see, you're not helping yourself with getting that picture removed. Here's the 1-0 pitch. On the ground to the right side, Cayaspo, and there's 2 away. If we get back in time, this could be a tease that may or may not pay off, but if we get back in time next inning, I want you to listen on Late Night with the Rays to the walk-up music for Josh Reddick. Have you heard it tonight?
I have not heard it. I've heard about it.
It's crazy. I mean, it's the most unique walk-up music you will hear. Those fans will be waving. I love the fans.
You're enamored by them.
Those fans are like World Cup soccer fans.
Yep.
Tonight they haven't been as crazy. Maybe I just haven't been paying as much attention, but they get into it when Josh Reddick bats. We may see it next inning. We'll see. Yunel Escobar takes a called strike, 0-1.
You've been up here directing traffic, keeping this thing moving.
I am. Yeah. I'm just holding on to my seat. I'm keeping it warm for Dwayne Stats, who will be in here tomorrow afternoon when the Rays have a 12:30 local, 3:30 first pitch on the East Coast. Rays live at 3 o'clock. Jeremy Hellickson on the mound against Sonny Gray.
It does not get any easier tomorrow.
That's going to be rough.
Quick turnaround. And Sonny Gray, who in his last 6 starts, he's given up a total of 5 earned runs.
And they keep adding pieces to the staff when you've got Gray and Kazmir already built into it. And the other thing is, yes, they're trying to win the whole thing and have a better pitching staff than Detroit and all that. They still need to win the division. We'll talk more about that later on. But the Angels are right on their heels as Escobar flies out to center field. 1-2-3 inning once again for the A's bullpen. It's 3-0 Oakland. Ramos is the new pitcher, and the first batter he will face, Josh Reddick.
For the Athletics, right fielder, number 16, Josh Reddick.
I love the props.
That is unique.
That is great.
Careless Whisper. Not a song you would anticipate to get a guy jacked up for an at-bat, but it works in Oakland, where these fans really enjoy themselves out there in the outfield. Josh Reddick, nothing in one to count.
And it's been like that as long as I've been around this game, and I'm sure it goes back even further than that. The fans in the outfield take it to a new level here.
They do. Drums and chants. Here's a chopper towards Loney, backs up on 2 hops. Reddick not running. Not sure what happened there. Oh, it's a foul ball. Is it a foul ball? What's happening?
Well, maybe he caught the Kurt Casale's
glove.
Oh,
yes, he did. Catcher's interference. Good call, B.A. That was the strangest looking play because Reddick wasn't running.
No, he wasn't running. The play was made. Everything looked to be on the up and up. Let's take a look. Casale reaching. Well, you can see by the reaction. You couldn't see much there, but you saw the glove go right to the dirt. And then the reaction of Casale.
And Quinn Walcott heard it as well. So reaching on the catcher's interference to start off the 8th inning is Josh Reddick. Reddick said he heard that song in the clubhouse one day, which is, to me is surprising, more surprising than the fact that it's actually his walk-up song, that would actually be in the mix, in the rotation in the clubhouse. Callaspo, the batter. Third error of the game for the Rays, by the way. Catcher's interference.
Well, they haven't. I'll tell you, that's the one area that the Rays have been so solid. The multi-air games, not having them.
Rays had a lot of chances in this game against Jason Hamill. They have not had any chances since he turned it over to the Oakland bullpen. Callaspo towards the hole, past Escobar into left field. And the A's have the first 2 runners on here against Cesar Ramos. Tomorrow's starters presented by Chevron. AL pitcher of the month for the month of July, Sonny Gray, 12-4 with that ERA just above 2.5. And Jeremy Hellickson will make his 4th start of the year for the Rays. The ERA looks fine, 3.29. What you need is a few innings out of Jeremy tomorrow, even though there is an off day the next day. You'd like to see him get deeper into games than he's been able to in his first 3 starts.
Yeah, he absolutely needs to. And a couple outings of 4 2/3, 1 of 4 1/3. Going to have a tough assignment tomorrow.
That's more your speed, Eric Sogard's walk-up music.
That's why I was having a hard time talking right there. Trying to enjoy between Eric Sogard's and then when we're at Tropicana Field, Matt Joyce. He's changed his song up. Big fan of that.
Sogard around the bunt. It is a 3-0 game, and the A's looking for more. That pitch misses outside, ball 1.
Yeah, and where before Eric Sogard he squared around late in that situation, runner on first base. There's an early square. Mike Gallego now going over with him what they want to do here.
Sogard does not face many lefties on the season. Just 2 for 23 coming in against lefties. Again, playing tonight because Jed Lowry banged up a little bit on a ground ball last night, the right index finger. But Sogard tonight, sacrifice bunt, walk, popped up. All facing left-handed pitchers. Around early here against Ramos again. He bunts it right to Longoria. Nicely done. Longoria only has the 1 play. Now 2 runners in scoring position with 1 out here in the 8th.
Now, that's exactly how you do it. That's as textbook as a bunt as you're going to get. You're squared around early and you're looking for the crash play. If the Rays decide to crash, you pull the bat back and try to just take a little pop and knock the ball through the middle of the infield. If they don't, you bunt it up the third base line, force the third baseman to have to make the play. By doing that, you ensure the move up of 2 runners. Now, the only other thing, and we've seen the Rays employ it, depending on who's running at first base, sometimes you'll see Evan Longoria come in there and try to cut that runner down at second.
Rays will bring the infield in here, trailing 3-0 in the 8th. Coco Crisp has been on base a couple of times tonight in his first start in over a week. Missed 7 games due to a neck injury. Rays trying to cut off a potential 4th run. Reddick on 3rd, Callaspo on 2nd, 1 out here in the 8th. Missed the breaking ball, slow 71-mile-an-hour curve. Line drive right to Escobar, and does Evan get the double play? Yes. Longoria's foot was on the bag, and a double play on a line drive. Oakland looking into the dugout. They may challenge this. I'm not sure if Longoria found the bag in time, but right now the ruling by C.B. Bucknor is a double play. And Bob Melvin's going to come out and have a word with the third base umpire.
And why not? But I think that this play is going to stay the way it is, because I think Evan does get to the bag. His ball was ripped, and look at Escobar. Fire that glove up, get rid of it.
Does he have the bag when he catches the ball? Because his foot came off the bag after that.
Right, and that's the key. Right there. Yep, he got it.
He got it. Tapped the foot on the corner of the bag. Nice job by Longoria and Escobar. The Rays end the inning with a double play. To the ninth, celebrate your little slugger's birthday at Tropicana Field with the Rays birthday package. Call group sales at 888-FAN-RAYS or visit RaysBaseball.com to reserve yours today. Fans love the walk-up song for Sean Doolittle as he enters the ninth. What a year Doolittle is having. Mention how Ryan Cook, Luke Gregerson are on a roll. This guy has been so deadly, especially against left-handed hitters all season long. Strikeout to walk ratio, look at that.
Yeah, I mean, that's absurd. 70 strikeouts and 49 2/3 is bad enough, but to go along with 4 walks, you know he's going to be around the plate, but he's got the high octane from the left side. Does have 3 blown saves on the season. So there is hope.
Joe Madden may go to at least 1 or 2, possibly 3 pinch hitters this inning against the lefty Doolittle. Doolittle ahead of the first pinch hitter, Logan Forsythe, 0-2. We are going to have our Rays Live post-game show presented by Checkers immediately following tonight's game. We'll tell you about Drew Smiley's first start for the Rays. Hear from Joe Madden's press conference as well. Joe and Derek Shelton Jamie Nelson, Davey Martinez looking for a rally here in the ninth. Quick order right there. Forsythe goes down on 3 pitches.
Guy has 4 walks and now in 50 innings. You know he's got good command, and that's exactly where Derek Norris wanted that pitch. Strike 1, strike 2, give it to me up. Right to the glove. That is outstanding.
Joe will let Kurt Casale bat for himself here with 1 out and nobody on. Casale on the evening has walked, singled, and popped up. Pitch is upstairs for a ball, 1-0. Doolittle taking over as the closer for this A's team, has 16 saves on the year. It was Jim Johnson to begin the year. Johnson no longer with the A's. Struggled in the closer's role with his command, and Doolittle has been nothing but brilliant. Mentioned a couple of blown saves, but for the most part he has gotten the job done every night. Last night pitched in the game in the 9th inning, and the A's won it in the 10th. In the air, shallow center, the shortstop Sogard puts it away, and there's 2 outs here in the 9th. Oakland's bullpen has now retired 9 straight. The Rays have seen their last 11 go down in order. Hey, Rays fans, don't forget tomorrow is the Wednesday Showdown presented by Mazda. The Rays will take on the A's, wrapping up this 3-game series. 3:30 right here on Sun Sports. Jeremy Hellickson and Sonny Gray is your pitching matchup. Sean Rodriguez will pinch hit for Kevin Kiermaier here with 2 outs in the 9th. Hunting fastball, getting fastball, but missing, nothing in 1.
Yeah, you know what this matchup's all about. Sean Rodriguez, he's got 3 swings. That's right. I mean, good fastball hitter, especially off left-handed pitching. He's got a big, aggressive swing, and Sean Doolittle, nothing but strikes, going to come right after you.
That was painted nicely. A's 1 out away, 1 strike away from winning the first 2 games of this series. The Rays in danger of losing for the 5th time in their last 6 games. 1-2. Didn't get Rodriguez to chase there.
See, the thing about that pitch, when you're trying to get a guy to chase up, you've got to stay away from the ball that's not up enough. Those get hammered, but you can't go too far up. You go up around the face, not many guys are going to chase those. You're looking for that little area between the letters and the shoulders. Doesn't want to walk anybody, and Sean gets a pitch that is right down Broadway. May not see one that good again.
On the hands, little squibber towards second. Callaspo makes the quick transfer, and that'll do it. The A's pick up the shutout, 7-hit shutout against the Rays. Rays are shut out for the 14th time this year. Jason Hamill, Eric O'Flaherty, Ryan Cook, Luke Gregerson, and Sean Doolittle, a 5-pitcher combined shutout for Oakland.
Well, unfortunately for the Rays, this turned out like we hoped that it wouldn't, as they had a lot of opportunities early, didn't cash in, and then the last 12 Rays to come to the plate were retired.
And